Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the January 14th, 2019 City Council meeting of the City of Belleville. I welcome everyone, and I will take attendance, noting that all councillors are present and here. If I can ask the clerk to lead us in a moment of reflection.
May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Help us to be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chamber minds that think and hearts that feel, always having respect for others so that we may serve the people of our city in a helpful manner and for the good of all.
Thank you. As this is the first regular council meeting of the year 2019, we will start off by singing O Canada. I invite everyone to join me. I will move so I can face the flag, but we should all sing it loud and sing it proud. Thank you. You may be seated. We certainly are missing former Councillor Jack Miller, who did a much better job starting us off on O Canada. We'll have to do tryouts for a replacement. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. For those that are watching on television or on streaming, you can go to the City of Belleville website, where the agenda for today's meeting is easily found to follow along. Item 3 on our agenda is a disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. We have a number, so I'll start off with Councillor McCaw.
Thank you.
Can I just ask you to stand, please?
Sure. 6.3, deputation from the Quinte Humane Society, and 8A3 about the portable signs.
Thank you. And you'll turn that into the City Clerk, please. Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Worship. 6.3, deputation from Humane Society.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Mayor Painchuk. Two items. One, 8A1, where I am making a declaration of a conflict. That's the Committee of Adjustment that I've been named to. And also, I'd like it noted for the record that on 8C5, I live in Settlers Ridge and have done for 5 years. And the provision for underground water and services doesn't affect me materially, but I wanted that captured.
All right, thank you. Councillor Williams.
There you go. Thank you, Your Worship. Deputation 6.4 from Jag Gershwitz. Okay. And I just own property in that cul-de-sac. Thank you.
Anyone else? And I have 3 to declare. 8B6 deals with services for the Bell Creek Phase 2 subdivision. I purchased a home from that builder. Also, 8B7, which is underground services for Bell Creek Phase 3 for the same reason. And 8B15 deals with the appointment of municipal bylaw officers for the Quinte Mall. I'm a business owner at the Quinte Mall, so I'll be taking a conflict on those 3 items. Number 4, public meetings. There are none scheduled for today. Number 5, reading and confirmation of minutes. Minutes of the regular council meeting of December 10th, 2018. Regular in-camera meeting minutes of November 26th and December 10th, 2018. Special council meetings of December 12th, December 13th, 2018, and a special in-camera meeting of December 12th, 2018. I'll get a motion moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Millette. Any discussion on this? All in favour? It's carried. Moving to deputations, I'd like to first ask Mr. Jeffrey Morehouse, representing the Canadian Forces-based Trenton Pond Hockey Classic, to make a deputation to council. Welcome, Mr. Morehouse. If you just push that button, the red light's on. Excellent. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much, Your Worship, for having me here today. Your Worship, councillors, members of the public, and staff, I'm very happy to be here and talk to you about the 8th annual CFP Trenton Pond Hockey Classic. It's the first time I've actually spoken in Belleville. Primarily up till this year, the tournament was very geocentric towards Quinte West. We wanted to expand it, but we weren't sure how. And with Wounded Warriors teaming up with the emergency services in Belleville for PTSD programming, it was an excellent connection. Our two charities that are receiving Trent Memorial, obviously for the Trenton part, but Wounded Warriors is our national patron that we work with. It affects Belleville Emergency Services now, and it's an excellent year for, I think, to begin to roll Belleville into the fold, because the Quinte region benefits from the base, not just one city. So I'm very happy to be here to discuss the tournament. The dinner, Friday, February 1st, out at the Battawa Community Centre. It's a fairly relaxed. We encourage hockey jerseys to be worn at this dinner, because I wear a very wool-tight suit a lot of times, so I'm more than happy just to keep it casual. And we like to have a less formal environment. It's a fun evening, a fundraiser, and a good way to kick off the weekend. And it's our best way to raise awareness, because we always have a speaker from Wounded Warriors there to speak about the programming and how that has helped them move past their challenges that they dealt with. We've always tried to get a guest speaker in from the NHL to keep the hockey theme going. This year we're happy to announce we have Laurie Boschman. Laurie had quite a storied career in the NHL, and now he's here to talk to us. He finished off his career in Ottawa, so there's definitely the Sens connection there. But he's a Leafs fan, so he's kind of appealing to everybody in this region. Sorry, Habs fans, but it's a good time. He'll be there to talk. He'll speak about 25-30 minutes, and he's got a lot of great NHL stories to tell. So that's sort of the lighter side of the evening that we like to do. We also have a couple now, Dan and Wendy from Wounded Warriors. They just finished their COPE program, which is a new program that Wounded Warriors have to help couples suffering from PTSD to work together. Obviously, the spouse suffers just as much as the actual member does over PTSD, and so by having them work together as a team, they're discovering a much more higher success rate, and so they're here to talk about just what they have gone through and how the funding that we raise this tournament will actually go towards this programming and to help wounded vets, but also any emergency service now provider that is suffering from PTSD. The tournament kicks off on Saturday morning, 8 a.m. in Battawa. We have 6 pond hockey regulation rinks. Canadian rules pond hockey, we have the small nets, there are no goalies, and it's 4-on-4. It's an excellent time. We take up to a maximum 40 teams. The last 2 years we've been at 40 teams. We actually had a waiting list to get on for playing. And it's just a fun day. We do 60 games throughout the day. So if you ever want to just come and watch hockey, between 8 a.m. and 10 p.m. there are constantly at least 4 to 5 games going on at any given time. It's a true Canadian game. There's no boards, no goalies. Pick up, if the puck goes in the snow, you've got to go off and get that puck back. And it definitely tests the guy's skills, because there's no dump and chase, there's no boards. You actually have to stick handle and pass your way to a goal. So it's fun. We have a team of volunteers run it, and it's just a sort of, once again, a fun fundraiser day. We also, throughout the day on Saturday, have the Military Family Resource Center putting on a Winter Jubilee for families. So between 10 and 2, we have hay rides, s'mores, ice skating for kids, indoor-outdoor activities, Andy Forgey's performing over lunch. So it's a way to bring the families involved, so it's not just one parent playing hockey, but the entire family can get involved and have a fun time at the tournament venue. In the evening, then, we concluded off with a pub night, because all the teams, 2/3 of the teams are done after the round robin. They don't make the playoffs. So we have band Moon Sugar, Prince Eddie's Brewery is out there. We've got a cider. We've got a fun evening planned for the pub night. And once again, it's a fundraiser for the tournament. And it's just a good way to kick off, finish off the Saturday. Sponsorship, Scotia Wealth Management, Scotia Bank have been a title sponsors for several years now. They're the reason why we've been successful in the sponsorship realm. Last year, just through sponsorship alone, we raised $60,000. So it's not a small piece of the puzzle, that's for sure. And the sponsorship is what drives us for our goals. We have a lot of corporate sponsors, large corporate sponsors, national patrons through Wounded Warriors that help us. And then we also have things down for the local businesses. So we cater to all spectrums for the tournament. Volunteers, tournament runs on volunteers the entire weekend. Without the volunteer help, this would not happen. Myself, I'm a volunteer. I do this predominantly in the evenings. My entire core, we are all volunteers. Most are active or retired military. There are several civilians who are involved, though, in the actual organizing. But the biggest thing is every dollar we raise goes to our charities because none of us are making a salary. We have obviously our general running costs, but there is zero salary taken from any of us. The facility, I just want to go over quickly because this is something moving towards what also piqued my interest. We have out in Battawa, the Battawa Lions Club built several outdoor pond rinks. A very cost-effective and easy system, but it's actually created a great legacy for the tournament. We used to build the rinks and then just let them go. Now we actually build the rinks and maintain them throughout the entire winter for the public to skate. So we have actually 42,000 square feet of ice surface. We have 3 different rinks set up throughout the year that people are able to come and skate and just have fun. On the weekend, the rinks were packed with kids. So it's nice to see, and it's a nice legacy from a tournament. I tie that in because, of course, I was reading that Belleville's looking at putting in with the Sens Foundation possibly a rink. That's something we can tie in for potentially using that as a secondary venue for the pond hockey tournament. So we'd actually have tournament headquarters in Battawa, but we would also have a headquarters in Belleville, thus allowing us to expand our tournament and reach into more regional partners and help spread the benefits of the tournament over it. Later on, I'll just discuss the economic benefits that we could see. So you can see we have the 3 rinks. That's our standard setup, rink 1, 2, and 3 throughout the entire winter. And then on the tournament, we expand it, so we actually have 6 rinks active for the tournament. And that's something that's very easy to do, and then we turn it back to a regular. Just an idea of scale, that's what it looks like in aerial photography from last year. So it is a fairly big tournament now. Numbers, to date, we've donated $272,000 to our 2 charities. Economic impact is roughly $350,000. We've secured over $250,000 in grants for whether it be equipment, development of the rinks, etc., primarily because of this tournament. 1,500 players, and most are local, but we have had players. We have several teams from Toronto and Ottawa now participate, and 1,200 volunteer hours to date on this. So it's slowly growing, and we're expanding beyond just, like I said, the Quinte West region. Current infrastructure will only allow 56 teams, so we're nearing our capacity. That's why I was talking about if there's a secondary venue. Well, we're not. The Lions Club isn't going to be building more. We're actually out of real estate in Battawa for expanding, but it's something to look at and consider if you do end up getting a rink. Halliburton is a great example of a community that put on the National Pond Hockey Tournament. They have 1,700 players, and they estimate the economic impact is $750,000 annually for this tournament. So it's large. We are more convenient to Toronto than Halliburton, and to me, the Quinte region has a lot to offer. I've been talking with Doug Stevenson, and we're really putting together a proposal forward, trying to make this into a regional event, because to me, I believe this can be a truly premier regional event that raises funds for some great charities, but also has economic impacts for the local community, and it's just another great thing that makes the Bay Quinte region unique and excellent to live in. So that concludes my presentation. I would, like I said, thank you very much. And hockeyfortroops.com is our website with all of our information. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. And if, like I said, just even feel free to drop out and check out some hockey. The competitive league, I think it's the Stanley Cup Finals every game. So excellent. It's fun to watch.
Good. Well, thank you for coming. Councillors, any questions or comments? Councillor Williams.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. And Mr. Morehouse, thank you very much for your presentation. Great job. I know attending it in the last couple of years, how great an event it is. I know last year, former Chief Warrant Officer Darcy Elders and former Defence Minister Peter MacKay spoke, and they were just incredible. And I know that there's some good hockey. One question, how much money are you looking to raise this year?
Our goal is $80,000.
$80,000. And secondly, is this all expert hockey players, or myself and Councillor Kelly, we're pretty terrible, could we go play?
You could actually, Councillor Kelly, I've been trying to get to play the last few years. So he always
he's in retirement.
Gives me a hard time on the radio every year at interviews. But it's, that's why we have the 2 leagues. We have competitive and non-competitive. The competitive, there's definitely some young guys running to win it, but non-competitive, we had a team of 60-year-old fellows who had a blast last year. They're just there to have fun. They made the playoffs. The next morning, Sunday morning, their first game, they regretted their decision making the playoffs because they felt 60 at that time. But that's the non-competitive has really been great because we've gotten a lot of just everyday people who want to come out and play.
Right, thank you.
Good. Anyone else? Councillor Kelly.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, I just want to congratulate you, Jeff. Great job. Your 8th year, and you're making a difference. And I think it's a community staple now. And it's nice that there might be potential to reach out to Belleville. And if some of my colleagues around the table or here at the city would like to put a team together, I'd be willing to captain that team, come out of retirement, and lead us to a victory. So thank you.
Good. Anyone else? Good. Well, thank you, Mr. Morehouse. I've attended the last couple of banquets, and I've really enjoyed them, but most importantly enjoyed hearing about the cause, the work that Wounded Warriors and your other organizations do to help the men and women that have served our country, that we owe a great deal of debt to them. It's terrific. I am sad that I won't be able to hear Mr. Boschman this year. That is the same night that we have our Operation Red Nose banquet. I, as an Oilers fan, remember him very fondly when he played for the Oilers, and he'll be a great speaker. Good luck to you. Thank you very much for coming today and letting us know. Great success this year, we hope for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If I can get the resolution that the deputation by Jeffrey Morehouse, representing CFB Trenton Pond Hockey Classic, regarding its growth to a regional event and the 2 causes which it represents, be received. Moved by Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favour? It's carried. Next, we'll move to 6.2, which is Lisa Ann Chatton, representing Crime Stoppers Quinte, who will make a deputation to Council. Welcome, Trustee and Vice Chair of our school board, Ms. Chatton. You're here to talk about something different today. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and good afternoon, Council. I have a couple of things to go over with you today about Crime Stoppers Quinte. As you know, we are a very grassroots organization that helps to lead to arrests and charges and keeping our community safe in the Belleville and Quinte region. We actually have a massive district. We go from Brighton one way to Napanee, and from Bancroft to Prince Edward County. And what we provide to police services are tips that are anonymous that come into us that lead to the removal of narcotics. Actually, there's several things that we help with, including and not limited to the growing opioid and fentanyl epidemic, the increase in the number of human trafficking cases, infiltration of contraband and counterfeit goods which present health and economic threats to our communities, organized crime groups, the growing threat of cybercrimes, hunting and gaming infractions, street drugs, fraud, and assaults. So it's quite a big laundry list of things that we address that are in the community. It should give a fairly good picture of the scope of reporting that Crime Stopper programs do for our communities, and as such, we are asking that the City of Belleville officially recognize January as dedicated to Crime Stoppers, so that we can spread further awareness of our anonymous program, and so that we can help police services in our district to keep our community safe. We wanted to extend our appreciation as well for allowing us to fly our banner over the Bridge Street Bridge for the month of January. That was, we're very appreciative of that. And I wanted to give you some of the statistics that we have from the 2018 year. So in our community alone, sorry, I didn't put my glasses on, so I've got to pull it closer. Year to date, which is the 2018 year, we received 511 tips from our community. Of those 511 tips, 44 of those led to arrests. 107 led directly to charges. Weapons recovered were 6 over the 2018 year. Property recovered over $10,000, and over $1 million in drugs were seized as the result of Crime Stoppers tips. So that's kind of a significant number. And in total, we've had about 37 years of operation in our community. In those 37 years that we've been here, over $20 million total has been recovered as part of the proceeds for crime. So we are encouraging anybody who witnesses or has any knowledge of any part of any crime to report it to Crime Stoppers without having to identify themselves. We never ask for people to testify in court. And we are asking for a little bit of promotion about our P3 tip. We have, with the emergence of smartphones, we are trying to join the 21st kind of century and start using some of those apps. The P3 app is what we have available right now for smartphones. That's available on Android and on iPhone. And if you download that application, you can actually submit a tip right when something comes into your knowledge. So if you are talking to somebody and you don't want to forget details, it's really easy to access that app and send off the tip. It comes directly to us. And that's it for my deputation.
Well, thank you very much. I'll ask if we have any members of council that have any questions or comments. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Lisa, for coming. So with the new apps that you have, there's no way of tracing the person that's sending, because I don't know anything about technology.
Sure. No, none at all. The tips actually come in. I'm the one that looks after the district. So the tips come in to me through a web platform. I don't see where they've come from. I can have certain amounts of dialogue with the person who's providing the information, but I don't receive their number. I can't technically access, like I can't actually, I don't see who it is. There's absolutely no way for me to access who it is that's contacted us.
Thank you. Also, how many people sit on your board? Do you have a board of directors?
We do have a board of directors. It's an amazing board of directors, actually, because we're not just a governance board, we're a working board. So our board of directors actually takes part in all of the fundraising that we do. We don't receive any government funding. We don't receive any funding from the police services. We are literally how we get the dollars to our table. And there are 12 total. And we have 2 liaison officers with the military police, and we have 1 liaison officer for our Belleville Police Service, and that would be Deputy Callahan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any Councillor Millette.
I know I'm new. It's kind of hard to remember. Thank you, Ms. Chatton. Quickly, is there a web link to downloading the app?
There is. Actually, there's 3 different ways that you can contact Crime Stoppers. The 1-800-222-TIPS is kind of the long-standing way that you can call in and speak to either myself or a call center that will take your information and provide it to us over the computer. But the website, we have crimestoppersquinty.ca. And our web tips, so you can just click submit a tip and it'll take you right to a website that allows you to put in your information. In terms of actually downloading the application, it's just in your app store. So like the little icon that has it's like a ruler, but there's like an A on it on your smartphone. Yes. So anyways, it's in there. If you look up P3 is what it's called. I know it doesn't say Crime Stoppers, and there was a reason that we did that too. We don't want you to be identified by people that might find your phone, look at your phone. It's not readily available that you have had contact with Crime Stoppers. This P3 tip application will also allow you to track what's happened with your tip, whether or not it led to an arrest, and therefore whether or not you qualify for a reward. And our rewards go anywhere from $50 to $2,000, depending on the amount of information that you've provided us, and just exactly what it has led to in terms of getting crime off of the street.
Right, thank you. Anyone else? Well, Ms. Chatton, thank you very much for coming today. Thank you to you and your organization for literally keeping our community safer. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Please pass along our best wishes to your board and our gratitude. Colleagues, a resolution that the deputation by Lisa Ann Chatton, representing Crime Stoppers Quinty regarding January as Crime Stoppers Month be received. Moved by Councillor McCaw, seconded by Councillor Carr. All in favor? It's carried. Can I just ask a quick question to the clerk? They've requested that January be declared Crime Stoppers Month. Do we have the ability to do that now, or do I need to get appropriate paperwork for the meeting on January 28th?
Through the chair, you can do that now, if you wish.
So I already have a proclamation later for another month. I can do that during the proclamations portion?
That's correct.
Okay, I will do my best to do that, and then we'll have to ad lib. but I'm sure we're up to it. Item 6.3, we have Donna Endicott and Frank Rocket here this afternoon representing the Quinte Humane Society, who will make a deputation to Council. I note that Councillors Culhane and Councillor McCaw have declared a conflict, as they are board members of that organization. Welcome, Ms. Endicott and Mr. Rocket. The podium is yours. If I can just ask you to push the button so the red light comes on your microphone. Excellent, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and members of Council, ladies and gentlemen. We're very pleased to be here today. This presentation is about the Quinte Humane Society and the urgent need that we have for a new shelter for our community. For almost 50 years, the Quinte Humane Society has been providing their services throughout all of Hastings County and Prince Edward County. The primary focus of the Humane Society, as many of you well know, is the humane care of animals. We provide for the care and wellness of animals that are in need, and by that I mean animals that are abused, neglected, lost, hurt, strayed, or simply surrendered by owners who can no longer look after them. We provide adoptable pets for those in the community who are looking to add to their families. And we encourage the most important aspects of vaccination, spay, and neuter. The time has come, though, for a new shelter, and we have the opportunity here in our area now to build a state-of-the-art shelter, a regional animal care shelter. To do that, we can't do it alone, and we know that we will have to rally everyone in the community to help us achieve our goal. This includes all of our levels of government, civic, provincial, and federal. Quinte Humane Society cares for over 2,200 animals a year. Approximately 2/3 of those come from Belleville, and the remaining third come from cities and townships in the Hastings and Prince Edward counties. On an average, Quinte Humane Society receives and rescues 1,750 animals in need every year. It provides animals with over 3,000 vaccinations. We spay and neuter 550 cats and dogs per year. And happily, we return 250 pets that have been lost. We return them to their owners. We find forever homes for 1,000 animals. And we transfer 250 animals to rescue partners that help us in our work. The Quinte Humane Society, through hard work and the active compassion and volunteerism of many people in our community, has now reached a point where it's ready to move on and extend our services. We believe we have the 4 important ingredients. We have staff that are expert in animal care. We are now financially stable. We have achieved responsible governance. And we receive and accept strong annual community support. Unfortunately, that's for naught, because we're housed in a shelter that has reached the end of its useful life as a home for animals. And it isn't suitable for Quinte Humane Society's community outreach programs. For instance, the building is not accessible. There is no place for our volunteers to work. That's the least. The most is that the building is become totally unusable. Our volunteer board of directors are a compassionate and enthusiastic group of people who represent both the public and the private sectors in our community. And you can see up on the screen there, maybe some familiar names. We believe that our financial situation is stable, it's responsible, and accountable. And there's some pie charts there that can show you that the majority of the funds that we raised are spent on animal care and the general operations of the shelter. The operations and maintenance part of our budget is about 7%. The community engagement and fundraising costs are at 5%, and our administrative and governance costs sit at a very low 2%. The majority of our revenues come from two sources: our adoption fees and public donations. We raise some money through special and community events, but as you can see, there is no government annual funding from any level of government currently. To support our campaign to build a new shelter, the Board of Directors, along with the staff, launched a strategic planning process in the past year. 5 key directions were identified as essential to moving the organization forward to meet the demands of a growing community. The first was delivering compassionate and innovative animal care. The second was strengthening the organizational structure and culture. The third was investing in capital infrastructure. You could read building here. The fourth was engaging volunteers, and the last was telling Quinte Humane Society's story, part of which we're here today to do. Many of you have been to this society, and you have seen the building firsthand. You may have noticed on the sign outside the Humane Society, it says, "A nice place to wait for a forever home." This is no longer the case. There's simply no more renovations or retrofits that we can do to that building. It's serviced by an unreliable water source, a well that sometimes even gets runoff from unfavorable sources, agricultural sources. The septic system is beyond repair, and it simply was never designed to be a shelter in the first place. So we're launching a campaign, a big campaign, a campaign to raise the money for a new shelter. We're inspired because we've received some major bequest gifts for a total of $1.45 million, designated to a new building. We've received an additional gift of $100,000, designated for a new building, and 59 other gifts, also designated for a new building, for a total of $123,487. We are currently in what we call our silent phase, and I tell people it's probably the best kept secret in town. But the first order of the day for us is to secure civic, provincial, and federal funding. Our plan involves securing this funding, pulling together a volunteer fundraising advisory committee that is already underway, with some enthusiastic responses, by the way, rally the Hastings and Prince Edward counties, private and public support, secure leadership and naming gifts, and develop the architectural plans and estimated costs, as well as engage local contractors and suppliers. I'm very happy to turn the next portion of our presentation over to Frank Rocket, our Executive Director. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So we have this large project in front of us, and basically we want to assure you that we have done the due diligence and we have the skills to get this project done with the support that we're looking for. We have an expert building committee that's been put together with volunteers, some with architectural or engineering backgrounds, others with, who've worked on similar projects for different places in the past. We have a board member actually leading that committee, Kelly Rumble, and we have Donna Endicott, of course, sitting on the committee, as well as Al Bunnett and Peter Stuke. And then we have a consultant from the county, Ernie Margetson, who is also lending tremendous support to the project, along with myself and JC, our capital campaign individual. So why do we need a new building? What's going to go into this building that's going to make it so fantastic? Basically, we are going to put in a building that can house the animals properly, meet current standards, be accessible to the public, provide us with an area to isolate sick animals, isolate pregnant or nursing moms, prevent the spread of disease and infection in the shelter, a shelter that can be cleaned at a professional level and still maintain its integrity, an air system that will keep the air from flowing from one isolated area to another, because of course many of the things that we deal with are airborne. It's going to be a more comfortable environment for the animals because they're going to be segregated properly. You know, right now we have, unfortunately in one area, we have dogs who are in there barking, and we have across the hallway with no real barrier, small animals such as rabbits, guinea pigs, you know, things of that nature, who are listening to dogs barking, and unfortunately, you know, in the wild, these would be prey species. So it's not a great environment. Now, all that said, we do certainly do the best we can with the resources that we have, but imagine what we could accomplish with the proper resources. So we've engaged architects to help us design this building, who did public consultation, consultation with staff, consultation with volunteers, and also surveys of the public to determine what they felt should go into a shelter. We engaged lead architects who are experts in this area, who've either done renovations or planned new builds for other shelters, and are basically one of the premier architects in Ontario for this type of project. And then what we're doing now is we're going to take these plans and engage local companies to do the build here. So we're looking at, of course, providing business for local companies through the course of this build. We have already purchased the land. We have a 6.2 acre parcel of land just on Walbridge-Loyalist Road, not far from Highway 2. It's perfectly located in that we can easily get on 2 and get across to the county. You can head north up into the northern parts of our area on Walbridge-Loyalist. The 401 is right there. Of course, it's on the border of Quinte West and Belleville. So it's situated, you know, rather excellently. And where it's located, it's not going to be disturbing anybody with the noise from dogs barking and dogs walking and all the excitement that that creates. It's really ideal. The shelter itself, so we have interior floor space of 14,325 square feet for the shelter itself, and then we're also looking at a spay-neuter component which would be accessible to, of course, the animals at the shelter, but also as a low-cost solution for those who can't afford to spay and neuter their pets right now. So this would not be something that's going to compete with local veterinarians. We're going to continue with our program, Got a Pet, Get a Vet, which encourages everybody who has a pet to get a veterinarian and maintain that relationship. This will be simply there to spay and neuter animals that are not getting service now. I mean, we're addressing this urgency in the community, 2,200 animals or more some years. If we can put a dent in that, the solution, the spay-neuter clinic is really a solution, whereas the shelter itself is kind of a Band-Aid. You know, it's always going to be a need, but the clinic would make a big difference. As you can see, it's located, I've already spoken to that, but it's really a great location and very central. So, a truly nice place to wait for a forever home is kind of not so much what it is right now. Again, we make the best, you know, with our professional staff of the situation, but we're really working towards, you know, building a better future for animals in need. And this is the outside. You can see the nice rendering of the building, a school bus. You know, we envision students coming, learning about animals, animal welfare, animal care, engaging with the shelter. It would be a real community facility. There's a couple of other renderings of the building from different angles. As you can see, it's not architecturally fancy. It's designed to suit the need, not be extravagant, but at the same time, it is, you know, aesthetically pleasing. You can see an image of the front lobby. If you've ever been in our front lobby, you can just imagine the difference from looking at this. It's open, it's wide, it's got space for people to come in. It's going to be a community space accessible to everyone and really work well towards meeting the needs of people entering the shelter to make an adoption. The next slide is our community room, something we don't have right now but really, really need. This would give us an opportunity to, again, host the public in the building, create a sense of community around the organization, and give us the resources to do that. Training for our volunteers, training for new adopters. I even envision birthday parties for small children coming into the shelter, learning, you know, having that experience. developing a lifelong love of animals here in our facility, and we can guide that. And so I think that's very important for the community. I'm not going to go through all the numbers of the capital budget, but suffice it to say that it's a large project. We do have some of the money in the bank now. We have purchased the land. We own it outright at this point. But we do have quite a ways to go. And that's where we're coming to you guys. We have developed a budget that's roughly about $9.96 million, and we're hoping to get a grant from the city for $1 million to get us on the way to making that a reality. It's roughly 10% of the total project cost. We're approaching the other civic leaders and communities as well to have their share come in, so it's not Belleville carrying the entire load. And of course, as you've seen from the bequests and the donations that we've brought in already and the dollars that we are planning to spend, it is one portion of a larger project, but this level of commitment would help us to make it a reality. We've already spoken with other levels of government. They want to see civic leadership on this project, and that's another reason why this is so key to being successful. I think your leadership would really be the one that starts the project rolling and helps us to achieve funding from the province, the federal level, and some other granting bodies who've already indicated that they would be interested if they see that civic leadership. So I just want to thank you all for giving us the time today to go through our project, share with you the importance and obviously the passion that we feel about the Quinte Humane Society and the need to, move forward with a building that's going to last, several decades in this community. And I think it's an investment that when you spread over the 50, 60, 70 years that this building can live, is actually not that bad an investment and excellent for the community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Rocket and Ms. Endicott, for your excellent presentation. Colleagues, any questions or comments, starting with Councillor Thompson?
Thank you very much for coming and your deputation. A couple of quick questions. In your financial statement, do you get any money from anyone in the municipalities at this stage? That mean Belleville, Quinte West, Prince Edward County. Do you get any funding from them, whether it be a charge or whatever?
So we don't receive any civic grants. We do hold the pound contract for the city of Belleville. We are endeavoring to get pound contracts in some of the other municipalities, but have not been successful in doing so yet. So the only, you guys are the only ones right now that we have a pound contract with that we receive funding for. Mr. Rocket, can you just expand on that? So what exactly is the pound contract and what do we get? I don't want to interrupt Councillor Thompson, but just I think that would be helpful for you to explain to us. Yeah, certainly. So when Animal Control, which is another body that you contract with, goes out into the community and brings in an animal, be it a dog or a cat or whatever it might be, we've seen some strange ones, they bring the animal to us. We house the animal. We hold it for the 72-hour stray period, which is mandatory in the province of Ontario. In fact, we hold it for an extra 2 days to make sure that the owner has an opportunity to reclaim their lost pet, and that's the time frame that contract covers. Right. So we house the animal, feed it, vaccinate it, all those sort of things. And do you know offhand what the pound fees you charge the city of Belleville are on an annual basis? Oh, I would have to look it up, to be honest. That's fine. It's a small percentage of our budget. I apologize for interrupting, Councillor Thompson. If you can please continue. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. In your figures that you're giving looking for funding, you talk about coming to Belleville for 2/3 of the funding of $1 million, and your total is $1.5 million. So you're going to the other municipalities for 1/3 of the 1.5?
Yes.
And what municipalities would you be going to for that?
We're going to Quinte West and to Prince Edward County.
And at this point, do you service those other two municipalities on a regular basis for animals?
We receive about 1/3 of our animals from the surrounding area around Belleville, yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Anyone else? I wonder if I can just quickly, before you leave, Mr. Rocket, Director Cousins, do you know offhand the figure that we get an annual, or that we provide an annual pound fees to the Community Humane Society?
Through the chair to council, I believe it's around $74,000 a year.
Yeah. Okay. And Mr. Rocket, if I understand correctly, again, you said that you are negotiating with the other municipalities for pound services or the same fee that we are?
Whenever they put their contracts up, we bid on them. We've not been successful yet. They have, unfortunately, some bids that are quite lower than ours, and quite frankly, for us to provide the level of service that we provide, they've not been within the range that we can do that yet. But we're attempting to.
What do those other municipalities do with strays that their services?
They have other organizations that, they have for-profits that deal with the animals.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
Unfortunately.
And then, if the City of Belleville did not have the Quinte Humane Society as a place to take our strays or the bylaw services fine, what would the choices be for us in that situation?
Well, you would have to engage somebody to provide a pound service. It would be probably some for-profit company, and I doubt that they would do it as economically as we do. That's for sure. Would
there be other areas that we could have those animals taken to besides? For example, would there be other humane societies in the area that we could send them to? What would be the closest ones that we would?
There are no humane societies other than us that cover this region. We cover Prince Edward County and Hastings County in its entirety.
And what would be the ones outside of our region but would be closest to us? I would assume Peterborough might be one. Does Bowmanville have a facility?
You would be looking at perhaps Peterborough or Port Hope or perhaps Napanee.
Okay. Right, Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor Banchuk, and thank you for coming. So just a brief question, Mr. Rocket. Ideally, if you can gather the funds, what kind of time frame are you looking here in terms to have a shovel in the ground and have the project proceed?
If everything were to go perfectly as planned, we would be hoping either late in 2021 or early 2022.
All right. So, my colleagues, thank you, Mr. Rocket, for coming today, and thank you to your organization for the work you do for our community. We truly appreciate it. Just in terms of some direction here, obviously we're not going to be making a decision this evening on that ask. They understand that. So my suggestion is that we would refer the report, receive the report, but also refer it to operating budget 2019. I'm getting the nod from the Treasurer, so that's correct. So the resolution would be that the deputation by Donna Endicott and Frank Rocket, representing the Quinte Humane Society regarding the society and its desperate need for a new shelter, be received and referred to operating budget 2019. Moved by Councillor Sandison, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favour? It's carried. Thank you, and thank you for attending today.
Thank you.
We'll just get Councillors McCaw and Culhane back in. Thank you. Welcome back, Councillors McCaw and Culhane. And Councillor Williams has declared a conflict on this item, so he has already vacated the room. It's my pleasure to invite Chad Gushewitz, I hope I pronounced it correctly or somewhat correctly, who will make a deputation to Council regarding Mahar Place bike path. Welcome, and thank you for coming. And just for the information of my colleagues, normally we would not have the deputation come to us at this stage. Mr. Gushewitz and his neighbors would have been referred to the Traffic and Active Transportation Committee, but because it wasn't populated until last week and we're going to finalize that today, I made the decision to have him come directly to Council and to be able to speak, and so he's here on behalf of himself as well as some of the neighbors. Welcome, sir. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. So I'm here to talk about, am I close enough?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Here to talk about Bridge Street, Phase 3, the Mahar Place between Avonlow. First of all, I want to start off saying that the whole neighborhood has no issues with bike paths. That's not really the problem. It's really, as I'm going to go through the evidence, I'm going to show you guys why this phase, this part doesn't make any sense, and we'll go from there. Okay, so what I've gathered going through staff and different people is that in 2014, council made a decision to build bike paths, which is a great thing for the city, no issues. In 2017, you guys, the city staff came with a plan to council to show them the different phases. Some phases of this have been built, like Bridge Street all the way down, and different parts of the pieces that are there. So it's kind of just giving you an overall picture of it. So what happened is during I think sometimes staff would know best, I don't know exactly, there was cap and trade funding coming from the provincial government. So there was an added need to spend money on another phase for that program specifically. So the city reached out to have a meeting with the public, proposing this new section that was added, the Mahar piece. They advertised on their website, Facebook, and newspaper. About 20 people showed up to the meeting. 16 people actually wrote down specifically their request. And these are actually minutes from the meeting. So this is actually from the meeting. So that can show you how many people were for it, how many people were against. And then the pieces back from that. So unfortunately or not, the decision was made, and then me and specifically my neighbor weren't actually notified about this. I actually had people surveying on my property, and I was like, okay, why are there people on my property doing a survey? So essentially I called into the city and asked them what's going on here. So they said, oh, we needed to reach out to you because we've made a decision to build possibly this path. So what I asked staff to do is to actually have a meeting with me, and I actually invited all my neighbors in the cul-de-sac to actually come to the meeting. So as you guys can see in here, right here, is they actually added the Mahar place all the way going to Avonlow. And I still want you to understand that the Bridge Street is still going all the way across. That is still the plan according to city officials. And there's one below down there. So some interesting things came out of the meeting that I thought I'd bring to light to council and to the public. So some of the things that were started is the cost, the extra piece is actually approximately $2.1 million. That was asked by one of the councilors that came to the meeting 3 times, specifically that part, what that cost would be, which is it's very expensive. The other piece that was asked, can loyalists actually connect to that piece? Didn't have that answer in the meeting. The other part that I found most troubling, probably, and everybody should know, is that once Bridge Street is actually done, the Mahar piece will no longer be necessary. So that's kind of what staff said, quoted to us at the event, and I have a bunch of people from the meeting that are here that can validate that piece. Also was asked if Quinte Conservation took a survey. Didn't know that at the time. Staff also suggested any vegetation to make it easier, or putting up a chain link fence. So after the meeting, I followed up with Loyalist College to see if they have anything in their capital budget, which they do not at this point. The other thing is Quinte Conservation has not actually been contacted, and I have a picture of a bunch of deer behind my house just so that everybody can see that's there. So they presented the plan to us. So as you guys can see right here, that the bike path is about 10 feet. It's almost touching me and my neighbor specifically's driveway. Mine's Mahar Place and number 8, and she's actually here right over there, just so everybody's aware. And they're going to put lights or fence or shrub. It wasn't finalized in the meeting specifically. So this is kind of an entrance into the cul-de-sac. So I want to take a picture so everybody can actually see what it looks like. One of the things I found out from staff was that when they were initially building this cul-de-sac, they were actually thinking of putting a road in between. But the problem is there's swampland and an easement of water going through, so they actually couldn't put the road. So what that created is that the 2 houses actually had to be put on a certain angle to actually fit them in, and that was a decision done by staff and the developers. That's just kind of a closer view of what it looks like, just so that you guys see it. We're not the best artists, but we kind of put an idea of what a fence specifically would look like. It would be on both sides and going all the way through. So that kind of gives you a better look of what it looks like. So after the meeting, after I found out that all the people in my cul-de-sac didn't know about this plan being built, I thought, does everybody in the neighborhood actually know? So we actually went door to door, hitting different people in the neighborhood, and we actually got 100 signatures in the neighborhood, and 95% of the residents in that area have said no to the piece. And we kind of did approximate amount of financial that they're contributing to the city is about $400,000. And the overwhelming piece that everybody said is they think we should just move the bike path piece. So I think this is kind of the main slide that kind of gets to the point that everybody urges the city leaders to actually move this. That's kind of what everybody has told us, and I know you guys have to make a decision still through capital budget. That's what I've heard from city officials. And I'd like to thank all the council for listening to my deputation. I'd like to thank all the residents that went in the cold weather door to door, telling everybody and getting everybody's signature. I know it's been very cold out. And anybody that has attended the meeting on my behalf and this neighborhood.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Gushewitz, for being here. Can I ask if you can make a copy of your presentation available to us? It's important for us. I'm expecting that we're going to be referring your presentation to the Traffic and Active Transportation Committee, and it's for them to have a copy of that to be able to get a reply or a response from city staff will be very important for them as they deliberate that as we move along.
Yep.
I can let you know that the meetings of that committee are public, they're open, so those members of the public are welcome to attend those meetings if they wish. You know, I'm not sure if anyone has any questions. Again, we're not here to debate it, it's to seek information. Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Your Honour. Through you to Mr. Gersowitz, I visited this area on the urging of some of the residents, and I agree it's after looking at the area and seeing where it's proposed, has anybody given you any indication as to why the top end of Avondale couldn't be the access point for this at all? Because on looking into it, if you went up and around the corner to where Avondale more or less meets its terminal end, there's much more space at the top end there.
I don't know exactly why they haven't done that. I don't know. I'm only getting as peaceful information as I go through it, so I don't know 100%.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
Could you just tell me, it's my understanding...
Can I just ask you to turn your microphone on, please?
Sorry.
Thank you very much.
It's
Sorry to
my
interrupt.
understanding that the students from Loyalist use the current path regularly. Have you observed that, or is that...
Not that much, no.
Not that much. Thank you.
The problem on the other side is that there's a ravine running, so Loyalists would actually have to build a bridge. So there's a big ravine running, so that's going to be part of their challenge on their end.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. I met with Mr. Gersowitz, and I think that snowbank that was in his picture was there at the time I was out there. When you look at the proposed location for the bike path, it actually raises more questions than it answers. And I think it's appropriate that we take the deputation and forward that on to the appropriate committee, because it really does need to be reconsidered for sure. Thank you.
Right. Excellent. Good. And thank you very much for coming. Just before I call for the resolution, I'll just remind everybody that the Active Transportation and Traffic Advisory Committee will have Councillors Carr, Councillors Williams, Councillor Sanderson, and Councillor Thompson, and we will populate it with some members of the public after the committee has their initial meeting. So the The resolution will be, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Do you need the signatures from the neighborhood? I brought it with me, or just bring it to
Certainly
the
that would be
meeting?
helpful. I would ask you, the most important thing for us is your presentation,
Okay.
because you had some information in there, and I think it's only fair to staff to be able to see it, particularly for new members of council. This is not a new project. This has been in place for some time, and there was some rationale, and we weren't sure what your presentation would cover today, so staff haven't had a chance to respond. So getting that presentation's key. I would ask you to leave the signatures as well. That shows us, you know, the support from people in the neighborhood, and it'll be one of the factors that will be considered.
Okay.
Right, thank you. So the resolution is that the deputation by Chad Gushewitz regarding the proposed bike path off Mahar Place be received and referred to the Active Transportation and Traffic Advisory Committee. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Sandison. All in favor? It's carried. Thank you very much, colleagues. Moving on to number 7, which is correspondence. 7.1, correspondence regarding, oh, yeah, thank you. I'll have to wait for Councillor, and thanks everyone for coming today to help with the presentation. Just if you can hand it to Councillor Millette there, he'll just pass it on to the clerk. Thank you very much. Thank you. So moving on to item number 7, correspondence regarding cannabis retail outlets. Opt-in or opt-out has been forwarded to members of council under separate cover. Report number 8A4 refers to it. So the resolution is that the correspondence received regarding cannabis retail outlets, opt-in or opt-out, be received and referred to staff. And report number 8A4, moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? Carried. And then 7.2, letter from Belleville Downtown Dockfest. And the resolution is that the December 6, 2018 letter from the Belleville Downtown Dockfest be received, and the request that there be no charge for parking in downtown Belleville on Friday, March 1st be approved. Moved by Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Sandison. And just for information, this is not the first year that we have consented to this, so there is precedent for it. Any questions or discussion on this? I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried. We'll now move to Committee of the Whole, and I need a motion to go into Committee of the Whole and hear and consider reports, passing of recommendations and resolutions with Councillor Carr in the chair. Moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? Carried.
Reports. The agenda shall include under reports items that warrant individual attention from council, and Councillor Sandison has declared a conflict. 8A1, a Committee of Adjustment workload and compensation letter to council from meeting of November 15, 2018. Manager of Approvals report number APS-2019-04, and the resolution reads that the Manager of Approvals report number APS-2014-04 regarding Committee of Adjustment workload and compensation be received and referred to the 2019 operating budget deliberations. Moved by Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Millette. Any questions or comments? Councillor Thompson.
Just a quick question. By sending it to operating budget deliberation, at this point, it's just being sent there. We're not making any approval of that fee at this point in time, right?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Motion is carried. Yep. Eight A2, request for proposals, RFP-ENG-2018-31, consulting services for geotechnical investigations for the reconstruction of Avondale Road. Senior Project Managers Report number ENG-2019-02. The resolution reads that the request for proposals, RFP-ENG-2018-31, 31, submission from Gemtech Consulting Engineers and Scientists Limited be accepted for consulting services for geotechnical investigations for the reconstruction of Avondale Road in the amount of $51,575 plus $6,704.75 HST for a total dollar amount of $58,279.75, this being the most qualified bid received, and the Mayor and the City Clerk be authorized to sign the acceptance agreement on behalf of the Corporation of the City of Belleville, and that the City Clerk be authorized to affix the corporate seal. Moved by Mayor Panchuk, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Any questions or comments? Councillor Sanderson.
Excuse me, I noticed on the two quotes that both were relatively close in scores. There is a difference in price. I'm just wondering what the scores were and why did we not accept the lower bid?
I'll refer that through to Mr. Ford.
Through the chair to Councillor Sanderson. We don't typically report the final the final technical scores. We went through a comprehensive process to arrive at a technical scoring. But what I can tell you is, and the reason why we have selected the firm, which is the higher proposal, is that because there is a larger or more detailed work plan proposed by this proposal. One of the things we're looking for is we want to know, we need good information on the soil chemistry, what type, if there's contamination out there, what the type of contamination it is, et cetera, et cetera. So when we looked at the proposals, we were looking to see, and trying to determine who would give us the best information possible for the money. We wound up recommending the higher proposal because they're proposing to do more work to gather more information that will give us a better understanding of the nature of any soil issues that we may have on this particular street. So that's why we recommended this higher proposal, even though they're two good proposals, but it's a much more comprehensive work plan. And of course, if we're going to be doing more boreholes, more testing, et cetera, there's an increase or additional cost associated with that. But we believe that this is a good expenditure of additional funds because we will get better information out of this from this consultant than we would from the other, by virtue of the fact that we're going to be obtaining more information.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Williams.
And just for information, again, through the chair to Mr. Ford, do we have a timeline on this project, either one, about where we're going with this one?
Through the chair to all of council, this is part of our engineering that's necessary for us to proceed with the actual construction of Avondale Road, and we will be bringing forward an issue sheet at capital budget in February to deal with this for the actual construction of this project, and we'll be able to provide more information at that point in time.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor? Motion is carried. 8A3, portable signs. Councillor McCaw has declared a conflict. 8A3, portable signs, sign bylaw 2006-55. Chief Building Officials Report Number CBO-2019-02. The resolution reads that a bylaw to amend bylaw 2016-55, the sign bylaw, to eliminate off-premise portable signs be prepared for consideration by council. Moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Millette. Any questions or comments? Councillor Millette.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Marisak, how many companies, roughly, do we know how many companies operate these signs in the city?
So Mr. Marichuk's in the audience. With the consent of council, I'll have him come to the podium to answer that question. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Through the chair to Councillor Millette, I believe we generally deal with approximately 7 portable sign companies on a regular basis.
Okay, and I would imagine that in the process of this, I know I've heard some concerns from at least one or two, the financial impact on this to them. I'm not in disagreement with the majority of people who feel that these things have gotten out of hand, and I'm in favor of some regulation, but the financial impact I'm concerned about on some of these people who operate these signs companies. Do we know in any respect, has anybody voiced any concern that it may in fact hurt their business? I would imagine it will.
Again, through the chair to Councillor Millett, I've not heard directly from anyone from the sign industry with respect to this issue. They all know it's out there.
Yeah.
They all know it's being discussed. I'm sure they all participated in the survey, and that's the information that I can offer at this time.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Kelly.
Through you, Mr. Chair. With the portable signs, I would think most of the businesses would be small business. When you eliminate off-premise portable signs, the issue is for the small business, and they're competing with the big business folks. Once you ask them to not have it on their property, it's a form of advertising for these companies, if you will, in other parts of the city to draw attention to what they may have to offer. I tend to agree with Councillor Millett that they seem to be popping up all over the place, but you mentioned, sir, 7 companies, the rules and regulations, and I just think that we have to be careful of the small business person as well, because that's their form of advertising. Thank you.
Councillor Culhane.
Thank you. Through you. Councillor Kelly, with respect, I've heard from far more people about the number and proliferation of signs, and I appreciate your point on small business, and it's well taken. I think my position would also be the word eliminate is troublesome. Regulate in much better specific direction would satisfy me more. I don't, I mean, there have always been some, the best of my memory, but it's excessive now and it's unsightly on many roads, and there needs to be more regulation. So to that point, if I may, through you, direct a question to Mr. McDonald. I'm not aware right now, I've never been involved with sign committee as to how tightly that is regulated. Is there someone that could answer?
Mr.
Sorry,
Marichek.
Mr. Marichek. I beg your pardon. Could you tell me, please, what kind of direction we give sign companies or businesses as far as these bigger portable signs go?
Through the chair to Councillor Culhane. So the sign bylaw contains a number of provisions relating to portable signs. For example, how many are permitted on a property, what the distances they have to be set back from property lines, sidewalks, curbs, that sort of thing. All of that information is contained in the sign bylaw, and the report that's before council tonight is speaking to the recommendation in the report is to prepare a bylaw for the elimination of off-premise portable signs. That's not getting rid of portable signs out of the sign bylaw. That's simply eliminating portable signs from being displayed on vacant properties and properties where the business is not located. Portable sign companies would still have businesses to be able to advertise for local businesses on the property where the business is actually located. That permission would still remain in the sign bylaw.
And I thank you, if I may. I understand that it's referring to off-premise. I'm not sure under what circumstances the number of signs has increased so steadily that people complain on a regular basis. I haven't really watched closely, but most definitely along some of the main roads, there are simply more and more and more. Totally eliminate off-premise. I don't know. I just don't know.
Anything further?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Sanderson.
excuse me, I would like to make a few comments. I don't have a question for anybody, but I think what we've seen with the temporary signs is that we've seen not only an increase in the number of signs, but there's also been a situation where some of them have been positioned as temporary signs, and they've taken on a very permanent nature. I think this is a welcome change whose time has come. My view and that of many of the residents throughout the city is that what was once an effective way to market a product or service on a temporary basis has developed to a point where it's become an unsightly, for lack of a better word, I would describe it as sign pollution. And with the advances in social media, to be able to promote businesses and with a view to tidying up our city, I will be supporting this welcome change wholeheartedly. So, thank you, Ted.
Mr. Mayor, check, you may just want to have a seat, but stay close in case there's other questions. Some is questions and some is just comments. So, Councillor Thompson, I believe I saw your hand. No. Councillor Kelly, did I see your hand?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. I just want to reiterate, I'm not saying that I don't notice the portable signs everywhere. And I do agree with Councillor Culhane. I think the word eliminate might be a little aggressive for my liking. Possibly regulate off-premise portable signs. But remember, we're inundated with advertising, and these businesses can't afford billboards. And companies in Belleville are allowed to put the huge billboards up and pay the big bucks monthly and advertise their business at various points throughout the city. All I'm saying, those small business owners that make payroll every month, sometimes advertising their sign at their location doesn't give them best bang for their buck. They're trying to attract customers, consumers to their business from different parts of the city or the region. Regulation, yes, I get it, but I would be very cautious on moving forward that they can't, Little Bobby's running shoe show store can't put a sign up on a busy traffic area and play fair with all the other signs up and competing businesses, open market. That's where I stand on this.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, the motion's on the floor. I'll call the question. All in favor? 2, 3, 4. Opposed? Motion carries. We're at 8A4, Cannabis Retail Stores, Policy Planners Report Number PP-2019-01. The resolution reads that Council opts in to the provincial program of establishing cannabis retail stores within the City of Belleville and directs staff to draft a community standards bylaw concerning cannabis retail stores. Moved by Councillor Millette, seconded by Councillor Williams. Any questions or comments? Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A few comments. I think it's we've done an exhaustive study on this, and I commend Mr. Deming on the report before us. Just a few comments. I would like to remind people that the survey that we put out, again, for the people who don't understand it, it wasn't a referendum on this issue. And yes, you could respond as many times as you like. Nobody I've spoken with on this issue kept re-hitting it to take the survey over and over again to skew, quote, results. I think the telling number here, regardless, is that the overall majority of people who responded to this either have no concerns or are in favor of us opting in. At this point, the common sense solution is to opt in. The province is going to support us with financial support if we do so at this time. Let me please remind everyone that when the lottery was drawn last Friday, no local retailers were in fact in the mix that I know of. So this isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to give us time to prepare the community standards bylaw and implement this in a common sense fashion. And lastly, I'm sure we've all spoken with some of our constituents on this. Many people have had pretty much, in my view, a shrug. The law is the law. It's a legal conforming product, same as alcohol or tobacco. Our job now is to how we regulate that. So for all the people that got very shirty about it, including a good friend of mine who claims that dope is for dopes and things like that, I'm not buying it, and most of the people in this city aren't buying it. Thank you.
Thank you. More questions? Councillor Williams.
So just to reiterate that, I think this is an opportunity for our city. I think it's again something that was debated in the House of Commons and had a lot of ample discussion, and has had a lot of ample discussion since. And I think this is an opportunity for our city to fill vacant space with entrepreneur-led legal retail. It's an opportunity to grow with horizontal industries such as Hexo that's announced in Belleville, or Loyalist College, which is doing research. And socially, this helps to ensure less potential hazardous fentanyl-laced drugs into our market. And of course, we all know which is a big industry east of us, which is not regulated by Health Canada. So I think it is something we should be supporting as council. I think something that we should be working with our partners with and going forward. Thank you.
Councillor Thompson.
I'm going to support it on two main reasons. Is and something like Councillor Williams opt about it, the possibility of getting rid of some of the illegal drugs out there that may be laced with stuff that's really not proper for the people. And if we can get a place that's legally selling legalized inspected marijuana, I think that's the even we need to go. So I'm certainly in favor of it. One question on the excise duty. It states that the municipalities will receive over the first 2 years percentage of the excise tax over $100 million. So is that a continuous basis, or is that just for the first 2 years? Can anybody answer that?
I'll refer that to the Treasurer, Mr. Cousins.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, I guess we'll have to see what happens after 2 years. Yeah, they just said 2 years, so I don't know what's going to happen after that.
Okay.
Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to support it because not a single person has asked me not to.
Very good. Councillor McCaw.
Thank you through you, Councillor Carr. I hear everybody's comments around the table, and I'm not satisfied that our statistics, reach certain age groups, mainly those over 65. A lot of these people, 75, 80, they don't have the internet. I'm just not comfortable that we've had enough consultation with every demographic where this is concerned. I also don't believe the funding being offered is just a drop in the bucket to what we're going to need for law enforcement, increased paramedic assistance, even mental health issues for that matter. I mean, our federal government has mandated the legalization of cannabis, but it certainly hasn't mandated every municipality to have to make it easy. So I will be voting against this motion today.
Okay. Mayor Panchuk.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. You know, we've known this day is coming for some time, that we have to make a decision, and we have to communicate that shortly. A few comments I want to make. First of all, I want to thank city staff for preparing the reports for us and having that circulated. It was very good. I also want to thank our staff who pretty quickly turned around and put a poll on our website, which I don't know if we've ever had so many responses. Now, I want to be clear, I don't believe that's a scientific poll. I'm not relying on that information for the basis of my decision, but it was an opportunity for people, who, if they wished, to provide their input on this. You know, we can poke all kinds of holes in it. I know people could have voted multiple times, they could have voted from different jurisdictions, whatnot, but the point is that we, and I think going forward as a council, we want to continue to give people an opportunity. I'm not sure how much clearer we could have been at the December the 10th meeting, where we basically tabled this item to this meeting to allow for members of the public to contact us, to telephone us, to send us emails, to stop us on the street or whatnot, and be able to give us their advice. We had a month of time for them to be able to provide input for us. And I've had many conversations, and I've received many letters, and those letters were forwarded and are part of your correspondence package. Were you able to look at that and see that correspondence? There are not many jurisdictions in Ontario that are opting out of this process. You know, certainly there are a couple that I'm aware of, but there are not many. And I've watched the discussions in those jurisdictions, as well as looked at the information they were using as the basis of their decisions. And I think I've had a very wide range of that. You know, we specifically asked our Belleville Police Service for their comments, and we see the response from Chief Gignac. And, you know, we are not the only jurisdiction where the police are going to have to deal with this. And I think he said that, you know, very clearly, that whatever the decision that we make, he trusts that we are making it in the best interest of our community, and the Belleville Police Service will be there to provide the service or the support. The interesting issue about this whole program and this option about opting in or opting out, that even if you choose to opt out, your Belleville, your police services will be responsible for dealing with the impact of this product that is now being legalized. You know, it is not our decision whether or not cannabis should be legal. That is a decision that the Parliament of Canada has made, and the province of Ontario has decided how it's going to be distributed. Our role or our right as City Council is to decide whether or not we are going to be a host community or a welcome community for other places that are retailers. And I'm concerned about putting ourselves and our businesses and our community at a disadvantage if we were to decide we wanted to opt out, but yet we continue to have 53 dispensaries just to the east of us. We have all the consequences, all the issues that come with that product being available, but then we don't have any of the funding that opting in allows us to have. So, you know, I think this is now a safe and regulated supply of cannabis as compared to the illegal underground economy, which is not just unscrupulous, but it is killing people because of the addition of other items. So this is a way for us to be to know that the supply is safe. The last thing I want to say is that when we talk about what these retail locations will be selling, it's not just rolled up joints that we traditionally have associated with cannabis. There are a whole number of products now that come out of it, some of which have illicit effects and some which do not. Some are more medicinal, and we're hearing great stories of people who, by extracting certain parts of the manufacturing process, are able to improve their arthritis or other ailments, pain, epileptic seizures. We have people who are finding that there's treatments for all kinds of ailments that are going a lot better. So with all that information said, I will be voting in favor of this. I think it puts us on a level playing field, and it's the best for the future of our community and for our businesses. Thank you.
Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Chair. There's been a lot of interest, and I've had a number of discussions over the past month, and most recently is yesterday. Not all are in favor of opting in, and there are underlying concerns due to the rather primitive way in which retail has been introduced. The appropriate license, as we all know, and even site selection is under the jurisdiction of the province. So the community has a window of opportunity where we can provide some input, but it's fairly measured. There really is no clear strategy that's been articulated on how the black market will be eliminated. That's the province's words, will be eliminated. And we've got some experience with tobacco that we understand that the black market continues to thrive. The other concerns that were brought forward were the distances from schools need to be extended, and that churches, addiction centers, and service clubs should also fall under the umbrella of having some distance between them and a potential retail store. Now, the upside is that consumers will be provided a safe, legal product, and some of the revenues that are currently funneled into the black market will find their way to the province and subsequently the municipality. On balance, and in support of the overall feedback that I've received, I will support opting in to the cannabis retail. I do also want to add, however, that the Ontario Good Roads Association Conference is taking place February 24th to 27th in Toronto, and a number of councillors will be attending. I've asked our CAO, Rick Kester, who's also Vice President of the Ontario Good Roads Association, to request that we be given a delegation at the conference to meet with the Minister of Finance, who's currently responsible for cannabis retail, so that we can discuss the concerns I mentioned earlier and any other concerns that may have stemmed from our survey results. So thank you for allowing me to speak.
Councillor Kelly.
Through you, Mr. Chair. This was an interesting process for me as a father of two teenage children. And I know they're going to be 19. You have to be 19. I get all that. But I took the perspective of a parent. And when I take my job as a parent very seriously, and I was thinking, what message are we sending to the kids? Because as a trustee for the past 4 years and visiting a lot of schools on a regular basis, drugs are an issue in high school, and that's the reality that we're dealing with. So I think as parents, it's best to have open lines of communication and remind your children that marijuana, cannabis has its place. I understand the medicinal purposes. People are living a better quality of life, and that's their choice. And I've read a lot of the research. I thank everyone that participated with the online survey. But I really thought about this and the connection with cannabis and mental health. I just hope that with the support of the provincial government that we make the right choice here. I'm going to opt in. I'm going to support it. I understand Health Canada. I would prefer people buying the product from them. There's rules and regulations in place. We can certainly work towards shutting down the illegal market. And the biggest thing is people are dying from illegal drugs. Fentanyl. People are getting sick. they're in hospitals, because they don't know what they're getting when they're buying it from distributors, whether they're close by it or other spots in the province. That's the reality. So I'm going to opt in. I think it's the right thing to do. But hopefully those with young families continue to encourage your kids to make the right choice.
Any other questions or comments? I'll call the question.
Recorded vote, please.
Councillor McCaw has requested a recorded vote. And since she's requested that, I'm going to make a few comments that I wasn't otherwise going to say. So I'll have Mayor Panchuk take the chair.
Councillor Carr.
Thank you very much, Mayor Panchuk. You know, this issue, you know, goes back and certainly we see it as it comes up for debate, the legalization. It has occurred. And so now it's a matter of working within that framework. The marijuana trade alone, illegal marijuana trade alone, is a $7 billion, and I hate to use the word industry, but that's just a matter of what it is. And so it's occurring in our community now. And it was referenced about the illegal dispensaries to the east of us, and I said it a few weeks ago, and I'll say it again. You can't have that much marijuana moving through a place without organized crime being involved and feeding the communities around us, and it's occurring. And so we are being dealt with, or being given or provided with all the devastation that goes with that. There's reference to mixtures of the drug with fentanyl and different things, and that is occurring on a regular basis across our country. And so we're dealing with that when we talk about EMS, our social services partners, police, fire are seeing it, and we're paying for it right now. And so obviously, you know, without getting into the merits of legalization, or, you know, because that argument's already been made, the reality is that it's trying to put a dent into that illegal format. So the hope is that, you know, with opting in comes funding. And I would much rather see funding through excise tax or taxes being generated as a result of legalization, paying to combat not only the black market trade, but also dealing with any issues related to health and paramedics and anything that's going to be a consequence of the legalization, because it's still going to occur. But I'd much rather be in a position where we're able to obtain funds from the province and have them pay for some of it, versus asking our residential taxpayers and commercial taxpayers to foot that bill. And so for me, it quite simply is, it's legal in Canada, and so it's a matter of how do we make the best of the situation. Certainly I'm not a proponent of drug use. I see the devastations daily as I carry out my duties in my other career. But the fact of the matter is that we have to look at it at the municipal level and what's before us, and how do we make the decision in the best interest of our community. And looking at some of the briefing notes through AMO, it's quite clear that the province understands there's going to be costs associated with it. There's an expectation that police costs will be there. Part of the reason why I wanted the police chief's opinion, quite simply, is I wanted to see whether there was any discussion at the provincial level when it comes to chief of police and funding formulas that may be out there for the various police services. My hope is, and with opting in, that some of this money we can then pass on to the police service when they come requesting at the podium come budget time, versus having us again ask taxpayers to dig a little deeper into their own pockets to pay for this. So clearly at this point, in my view, it's a simple financial decision that needs to be made. Again, I'm kind of pleased that we see the 25 stores roll out. I said this before, when we attended AMO last year, there was a very big plenary session at the last of the conference, And on the one side of the table, you had provincial bureaucrats, and on the other side, you had municipal officials. And as the municipal officials laid out all the issues that you're going to see and that we're going to have to deal with, the provincial bureaucrats were writing excessively. And you could tell quite clearly that they were running on the fly. And so I still think that exists today. Up until this point, as we continue to receive our briefings from AMO and different agencies. However, with the slow rollout, and as Councillor Sanderson referred to the fact that with some lobbying, perhaps then we have an opportunity here for some controlled rollout, understanding that the municipalities don't always have the ability to pay. And given the fact that this is going to be a tax revenue generator for both the federal and provincial governments, we need to make it very clear is the expenses associated with this legalization as it touches our community means that that tax should be paying for it. And that's how I view this today, and so therefore I will be supporting the resolution on the floor.
Thank you, Councillor Carr.
So with that, we've Councillor McCaw's requested a recorded vote. I'll turn it over to the clerk.
Councillor Kelly? Councillor Millette? Aye. Councillor McCaw?
No.
Councillor Sanderson?
Yes.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Williams?
Yes.
Councillor Carr?
Yes.
Councillor Culhane?
Yes.
Mayor Panchuk?
Yes.
Motion carries.
8A5, Policy for Allocation of OLG Municipality Contribution Agreement, Annual Contribution and Proceeds. Director of Finance Treasurer's Report number DF-2019-02. The resolution reads that the Director of Finance Treasurer's Report number DF-2019-02, Policy for Allocation of OLG Municipality Contribution Agreement, Annual Contribution Proceeds be received, or that the Director of Finance Treasurer's Report number DF-2019-02, Policy for Allocation of OLG Municipality Contribution Agreement, Annual Contribution Proceeds, revision number blank, be approved. So we have some options on the floor. Councillor Thompson.
Option one.
Option one, that it be, option one, the second resolution, option one.
Yes, resolution, option one.
Revision number one.
Yep.
Okay, so that's
Sorry.
on the floor, seconded by Councillor Millette. Any questions or comments? Councillor Sanderson.
Could you just read the resolution that we're got on the floor?
Yeah, I can do that. Just bear with me. So the resolution that's on the floor, that moved by Councillor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Millette, that the Director of Finance Treasurer's Report number DF-2019-02, Policy for Allocation of OLG Municipality Contribution Agreement, Annual Contribution Proceeds, revision number 1, be approved.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments? Councillor Williams.
And through the chair to Director Cousins, just going through revisions and looking at between option 1 and option 2, I did prefer option 2. However, was there a difference or why we would have had the vehicle and equipment replacement as an option? Was there something where we see money already coming for somewhere else, or is that just something that was just was part of strategic direction?
Director Cousins.
To the chair, Councillor Williams, no, I just reviewed other municipalities in Canada that get charity money or casino money, and kind of read what they had done in the past, and I was just another option. I could be here for another hour doing a different option, so.
And just second question, do we see as a council, or from your perspective, a need for council's emerging priorities for a 5%, which would be $150 a year?
Your thoughts?
My thoughts, nice option, but it's your decision.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Chair. Just wondering, how would I go about getting another option tabled?
Well, at this point, we have a mover and a seconder for this, so we'll have to vote on it, because another option would be a substantively different option at this point.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Millette.
I think this issue, by the way, came about, well, in two ways, as I understand it now. This was proposed as a result of the grant committee of the last council. Unknowing to that, some of us campaigned on this the last time around. And I like to say that we had to commit more to our social infrastructure because we're only as strong as the weakest among us. And I believe that with this windfall funding from the casino, it behooves us to address more money to the people who need it most. That said, I believe that the elimination of the 5% for land acquisition, I believe we can recoup those funds quite easily in other means, and this is the least painful, for lack of a better word, to help make sure that that extra 5% goes towards social infrastructure. So I will certainly support this motion.
Councillor Thompson.
I made the motion, so if anyone wants to speak before, then I'd speak after. If not, I just think it's a great idea that we all know that the social issues in our community, as well as other communities, is struggling to raise funds, where most of them raise funds through charity events, out there pounding the pavement, trying to raise $5 here and $10 here. And if we can help them in any way, shape, or form to overcome some of the issues, especially I notice, and you know, with the mental health issues we have in our community, a lot of agencies struggle with that, and by getting it up to 10% certainly gives us that opportunity to make sure we get a lot of agencies some funding. I still caution the committee to take a strong look, that we make sure that we fund as many of the organizations that apply, and spread that money out as far as we can, because there's a lot of agencies can use 50,000, but there's a lot of agencies would happy with 10,000. So I'm going to support the motion.
Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Chair. I have no issue with the 10% on social infrastructure. In fact, as a council, we agreed to do that at our last meeting, to raise it to 10%. So really the issue is, for me, is where does the 5% come from? Given our activities on land acquisition, I'm wondering if that's the best place to reduce to zero. And so I'm struggling with that, and I won't be supporting it.
Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the public's information, all of the three options before us include increasing social infrastructure support to 10%. The option number 2 is different in that it eliminates land acquisition, and that was the one more favorable to me, so I won't be supporting number 1.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Thompson, I know other councillors have spoken, but you did move the motion. Any other further comments?
No, I just encourage everybody that I think the land acquisition, we have other avenues that we can get the money to cover land acquisitions in our processes of our balance, our budget. So I encourage everybody to certainly look at reason 1.
Councillor Sanderson.
Can I ask for a recorded vote?
You can. I would ask councillors that when the clerk calls your name for the vote, that you activate your mic so that it can be properly picked up on audio. Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Clerk.
Councillor Millette?
Yes.
Councillor McCaw?
No.
Councillor Sanderson?
No.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes.
Councillor Williams?
Yes.
Councillor Carr?
Yes.
Councillor Culhane?
No.
Councillor Kelly?
Yes.
Mayor Panchuk?
Yes.
Motion carries.
8A6, Waterfront Pop-Up Shop Development, Manager of Economic and Strategic Initiatives Report Number ECDEV-2019-02. Resolution reads that pursuant to the Manager of Economic and Strategic Initiatives Report Number ECDEV-2019-02, Waterfront Pop-Up Shop Development Project, the pre-budget request of $40,000 to implement Phase 1 in 2019 be approved, and that this two-phase project be referred to the 2019 capital budget, and that the funding for Phase 1 of the Waterfront Pop-Up Development Project come from the Casino Reserve Fund Infrastructure. Moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor Sanderson. Questions or comments? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I did move it, but I did ask that I could speak to it beforehand. And first of all, I just want to thank staff, specifically Alicia Purchase and who came in at the end, Mark Fleur, and some other staff that were around just in making this project work through the holidays, because I know we pitched it at a time when no one was working. So it's just great to have staff working hard. This was a project generalized by the thought to activate our waterfront through entrepreneurial-driven pop-up shops. There's a lot of talk about spending millions of dollars on waterfront assets when the asset's already there. We already have multi-million-dollar assets. So the thought in this project was to find a way to activate waterfront through entrepreneurials and entrepreneurs themselves. And what we've really come to in this project was really crawling before we could walk. It's a pilot project in 2019, meaning that we're starting with something that's small, and we're going to take this to capital budget to talk about something a little bigger in 2020. The thought was to start with 10 by 10 huts, and there's pictures in the handouts for council to see. Actually, I thought there was, but on page 3, you can see them kind of in the top right. If anyone's been to the Christmas market in Toronto, you can see them. Sometimes they have Jägermeister on them and other retail operations. This exists. These pop-up shops exist in Kelowna, in Muskoka, in Halifax that I saw them in the summertime. And the whole idea is that we have the asset here in Belleville. Entrepreneurs will be taking the risk to start businesses that activate that, whether that be bike rental or SUP and paddleboard rental, or horse-drawn carriage, or any business that they wish. If passed, an RFP would go out in February, and we would hopefully have those selected at the end of February to start in March. Now, why, again, we didn't take this straight to capital budget was that entrepreneurs need a longer runway. The goal is to have these entrepreneurs starting on May 2-4 weekend. So they do need March and April to get together, to get funding, to have business plans approved, to go to banks, etc. So we're really getting in front of this so that we can have our waterfront activated in summer 2019. And the budget for this year, what we're acting on today, is $40,000 out of the Casino Infrastructure Fund, which is a little larger, but $40,000 this year, and then we go to capital budget. So that's my movement.
Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, through you. This is a very exciting project. It's the first I've seen anything like it. The report is so thorough, and there's so much opportunity here for young people who want to run a small business for the summer. I would urge everyone, every young person out there who's looking for an innovative way to make money over the summertime to come to City Hall and talk to us and call Councillor Williams and find out what's available here, because it's an opportunity that I have never seen before, and I just urge everyone to take advantage of it. It's very exciting.
Councillor Millette.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment. I will be supporting this motion. I spoke with Councillor Williams yesterday about this, and we batted around some ideas. I think it's pretty exciting. My wife has a business in Wellington, and we have behind the business one of these repurposed shipping containers. And if anybody's ever been over to Wellington and visited the, I won't get a plug in for the ice cream shop, but behind it is Pilot Coffee Roasters, and they've done a terrific job. These aren't just sea cans that you slap a paint job on. These will be attractive additions to the waterfront, along with the businesses who operate them. In the meantime, first phase, as Councillor Williams and I discussed yesterday, and Councillor Williams reminded that these 10 by 10 wooden structures that we'll use for the, not the experimental, but the trial stage, if you will, can be repurposed, and we can use them elsewhere for festivals downtown, on the Market Square. The upsides of all of this is, even we chatted who will make them. I mean, we have some Amish folks to the north of us who are in the business of building these things. They can build some pretty impressive structures, or we may have some in the city itself. So anyway, I'm going to support it as Councillor Culhane said. It's exciting, but not just for young entrepreneurs there, Councillor Culhane. Some older folks might want to get involved too. So I will be supporting it. And again, congratulations to Councillor Williams and city staff who helped. Ms. Post has been very active in it. So good job all around, but I will be supporting it quite heartily.
Councillor Kelly.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I too want to echo those words from Councillor Millett. Great work by Councillor Williams and the staff here at the city. This was quick turnaround, and read through the notes. I think, as Councillor Culhane mentioned, this is thinking outside of the box for the city. It's going to bring some good energy. I've seen this in Kelowna, and I saw it a couple of summers ago in Burlington on a Sunday morning. The pop-up shots, I think, not shots, but shops. And I think it's great. It's going to bring a lot of energy and create jobs and take us to the next level. So good work, Mr. Councillor Williams.
Mayor Panchuk.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carr. I too want to echo the congratulations both to Councillor Williams for coming up with the proposal, and then also staff for working over the holidays, as Councillor Williams said, to help get this going. And this is a little bit out of the normal process we had in the previous term. So everyone's adapting, and I'm very happy with the effort that was made, and I think it's coming along very well. This is the beginning of providing more services for downtown Belleville. We have talked about the fact that people can't believe that we don't have more outdoor activities. We don't have more things to draw us downtown to our beautiful riverfront and our beautiful riverfront trail and all the different areas. And this is the beginning of utilizing entrepreneurs to step in with an opportunity to provide us with some seasonal activities, which everybody is desperate to see here. And I think it matches up well after that historic investment we made in downtown last term to get us to this point. And as we start to imagine what the future can look like of downtown, this is going to give us some information about what people want, what draws them to downtown, and how we can be excited about our future. I believe that what we're dealing with today is a modest proposal to start now, with some buildings that we can utilize in other areas and throughout the year. These are portable 10 by 10 buildings. We can use them at our other city facilities in the future if we decide we want to transition to something different. This is not in any way a one-time usage that, if we decide that it didn't work out, we're going to be out. It's not at all that. I think that these are ideal types of buildings for this phase. We'll review the second part of this proposal. So, the proposal here is for $40,000 for these 10 by 10 structures. And then at capital budget, we'll review the latter stages for next year, which will be a further $110,000. And we'll have more of the information that we need as a council to make that decision at that time. But this is it's not a risk to go ahead with this now. What I'm excited about also is that by establishing this, this fits naturally in with the additional support that we have to provide to our facilities in the city in any event. We need to do a better job, and at capital budget we'll be asking Manager Reid with Environmental Operational Services how we can do a better job of cleaning those trails, making sure that they are more presentable and that people can use them, not just there but other places in the city. And by bringing more community members down to visit these pop-up shops, it will justify the investment we need to make in enhancing our services elsewhere. So, I echo the congratulations. I echo Councillor Culhane's excitement, because this is an exciting proposal, and it's the beginning of many that our council will be bringing forward over the next 4 years.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. And I commend Councillor Williams for bringing this forward. Great initiative for the City of Belleville, great ideas, and his expertise in dealing with many of the entrepreneurs will be beneficial to this particular project. I would ask that we make sure that the Bay-Quinte Marketing Board hear about this, because they're preparing their agenda for the spring in their newsletter, their kiosks, so something like this could be very valuable to them. And when you look at the CCAN units, a good example of the value of the CCAN is we've already done one for the lighting display, and we know how well that's worked out. So the CCAN for 2020 is a great idea and got lots of potential, because you can close those up quite easily and move them on. So thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Councillor Sanderson.
I think I would be remiss if I didn't point out that it's going to be unanimous. I echo all the comments that have been made, and I think it's a great initiative.
Very good. Call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. 8A7, Route 11 late night service, permanent service and matching service hours of specialized service. Manager Transit Operations Report number MT-2019-01. The resolution reads that pursuant to the Manager of Transit Operations Report number MT-2019-01, that Council endorse the removal of the pilot title of Route 11 late night service and allow the permanent operation of Route 11 late night bus as regular transit service, and that 2 permanent transit operator positions be created within the Department of Transportation Operations Services, Transit Services section, and that the specialized service hours be increased to match the conventional service hours of the Route 11 late night, and that pre-budget approval in the amount of $220,000 be authorized for the 2019 operation of Route 11 late night transit service and the legislated requirement of matching specialized service hours. Moved by Councillor McCaw, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Any questions or comments? Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to congratulate Manager Buck and the staff and the successful conclusion of a pilot project. It's a wonderful service, and the report indicates nearly 4,000 passengers a month. And I can only imagine the improvement that has made to the lives of many people who work in the industrial park and, may have had no way back and forth to work. And it's just an excellent undertaking, and I wanted to support completely.
Councillor Millette, I believe I saw your hand.
Through you, Mr. Chair, to Director Buck.
With the consent of council, I'll have Mr. Buck take the podium. Mr. Buck.
First off, Mr. Buck, congratulations on a terrific report, and I will be supporting this wholeheartedly. One quick question. I was approached by a gentleman at the levee, and I'm sure some others may have spoken to him as well. He was a little concerned about the effect this may have oh, I'm going to hear about it if I don't get it right. He frequently takes a late-night bus from the sports center, I believe he said, and occasionally the demands of this service, according to this gentleman, took away from that. Is there any, this doesn't impact any other routes in any other way?
Through the chair to Councillor Millette, that is the only service that's operating at that time of night. What I believe that gentleman has a concern with is, since we've launched the on-demand service,
Yes.
we've maxed capacity again with the resources that we're using. So we'll address that through operating budget later on.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Mr. Buck.
Councillor Williams?
Thank you, and I'll echo my sentiments to the chair, to Mr. Buck. Great job, I think, not only on the operation, but the innovativeness of it and the media that you've gotten around that, which has been great for Belleville. My just question, and I've also already asked you before, but just publicly, was on those citizens who do not yet have cell phones and the way it's working. Have we ensured and are we marketing a number that people can call on a landline or payphone in order to secure pickup and drop off?
Through the chair to Councillor Williams, we are. Through our website, where the helpline is for anybody that needs assistance with the app, and also through the brochure handout that we have a daytime dispatch number where anybody that does not have computer access can phone and pre-book.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Councillor Thompson?
Great that we're going to make this a permanent, and one of the good reasons is the specialized service. On the specialized service then, our mobility buses that we use right now, they will not be doing any of the extra hour service. It'll strictly be central taxi.
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, no, our mobilized or mobility service operates through the day, regular service hours. Anything evening and weekends is through the contract with Central Taxi.
Yeah. So that's what I meant. That
yes.
The extra hours is strictly by Central Taxi then.
These hours will be through Central.
And have we been guaranteed how many taxis will be available for the mobility people? Because there's been concern in the past that sometimes there's one taxi or none. Have we secured how many taxis there will be available for that?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, the contract that's currently in place with Central allows for one dedicated taxi to transit. They have accommodated recently with additional units, but through the contract they're only required to provide us with one.
So in your experience, is one taxi enough to be available? Have you seen any concerns with the demand?
There were some concerns a few months ago, but we have addressed those with Central, that they are now looking after the overflow as well. Anything that comes above and beyond the one taxi demand, they are looking after it.
They've been very cooperative with that.
Very cooperative, yes.
So on the fee, if I may, it says $35.50. Is that what they charge us per trip for the taxi service?
Through the chair to Councillor Thompson, it varies. That's the average, depending on the length of the trip that the individual is taking and how many are that the cab can fit into one ride.
Okay.
On average, that is the cost. Yes.
So it's when they hire a taxi, then if there's 5 or 6 being picked up at say one of the factories, they charge per person in that taxi for drop-offs.
They collect our fare of $2.25,
Yep.
and then we top up what it costs for the length of that full trip, not each individual on the trip.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Sanderson?
Through you, Chair, just while we have Mr. Buck at the podium, looking for some clarity, the 4,000 passengers that are referred to, that's actually, I don't think that's 4,000 different individual passengers, but more likely 4,000 tickets or pass usages. So if you look at it on a 5-day week, so that would be 20 days in a month, so that's about 200 tickets a day. If it's the same individual, same passenger doing a round trip, we're only talking minimum case, it would be 100 individuals that are utilizing that service over the month. Is that correct?
Through the chair to Councillor Sanderson, we have 2,480 registered users of the on-demand service. We are carrying approximately 4,000 boardings per month, which just counts each individual through the door, whether it's a repeat customer or different customers. I can tell you from observation, it's a lot of repeat customers. Individuals going to and from work, that's 2 trips if it's one individual. And we have a number of passengers that use it multiple times in a night.
Okay, thank you. Second question, why, there's 2 portions to the budget. There's the capital and the operating. Are you looking just to amend one portion, i.e. one of those budgets, or both?
For this particular request, it's just for the capital, because we don't have permission from council to operate beyond January 2nd. So this just gives us the authority to continue on to continue the service with council approval.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So we're amending the operating budget right now. Any other questions or comments? Call the question. All in favor? Motion is carried. 8B, consent items. Council may adopt consent items by one motion, but prior to consideration of such motion, members may request that specific items be removed from consideration under such motion, and council shall consider such items individually. I'll start with Councillor Thompson.
No, thank you.
Councillor McCaw. Councillor Kelly. Councillor Panchak.
8B3, please.
Councillor Culhane.
No, thank you.
Councillor Williams.
No, thank you.
Councillor Sanderson.
8B4, please.
Councillor Millette.
No, thank you.
So that the following agenda items be approved with the exception of, one second here. I don't have a lot pulled, but I have a lot of conflicts, so I'm trying to do this in an expedient fashion, so bear with me. So the motion will read that the following agenda items be approved with the exception of items 8B3, 8B4, 8B5, 8B6, 8B7, and 8B15. Can I get a Councillor Williams, Councillor Thompson, all in favor? Motion is carried. Eight B3, Mayor and members of Council remuneration and benefits, Director of Finance and Treasurer's report number DF-2019-05. Resolution reads that pursuant to the Director of Finance Treasurer's report number DF-2019-05, a bylaw to provide for remuneration and benefits for the Mayor and members of Council be prepared for Council's consideration. I have that moved by Mayor Panchak, seconded by Councillor Williams. Councillor Panchak.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. I just wanted to pull this because I'm concerned that some members of the public may have a misinterpretation of what we are doing here today. I'm concerned that some people think that this is City Council trying to take a pay raise through our first meeting of the year. So I wonder if I can just ask through you to Director Cousins just to explain what the purpose of this resolution is doing today. I don't recall it in this format previously, so if he could perhaps just give us a brief overview of why are we required to do this, and then what is the what is it that we're trying to do, and then what's the impact of what we're trying to do?
Director Cousins.
Through the chair to His Worship, This report and bylaw came about because the federal government, through Bill C-44, eliminated the one-third tax exemption that was applicable to members of council. So what, a little bit of history, way back in 2006, the one-third tax exemption was still in place, and that introduced the $400 a month car allowance for the mayor. Back in 2010, the mayor and council's compensation or salary was further adjusted in the bylaw 2010 annually, and it was adjusted with the admin staff. It was tied in with the admin staff increase. The one-third exemption, tax exemption was still in place, and now we come to 2019, and we've had to eliminate the one-third tax exemption according to the federal government. So what's before you now is the rate, the council and mayor's salary as of January 1st, 2019. But with the one-third exemption, what's that caused to happen is that the mayor, based on a net pay analysis, will receive $7,400 less than the mayor's pay in 2018, and that's just due to the elimination of the one-third tax exemption. And for each member of council, their pay has been decreased by approximately $2,200 a year based on the one-third tax exemption elimination. So.
Okay, so just to be clear, if I can continue, you know, basically, prior to January 1st, the way we dealt with council's remuneration is that 2/3 of the amount was paid as your salary, and then 1/3 was a tax-free basis. So it was on your checks. You would see it as a expense reimbursement, and that way we didn't have to pay tax on that portion. Many municipalities had taken action prior to the end of 2019 to ensure that with the introduction of the full 3/3 being taxable, that members of council were made whole. Today, we have a situation where our city councillors are receiving $2,200 less than they were in 2018. I think it's too early to say whether or not the voters are getting better value in 2019 or poorer, but certainly nobody was expecting that there would be a pay cut or people on council. So I'm going to support the resolution, but what I would like to do, if it's in order, is to ask for the next meeting to have a breakdown of the numbers that Director Cousins just spoke about in terms of, for mayor and council, what the after-tax impact is of removing the 1/3 tax-free portion of our benefits, and then what action would be taken so that we would become whole. The intention here is not to take an increase. The intention is to keep it the same. And unfortunately, you know, previously the previous leadership didn't feel it was important enough to address before the end of the year, so it's left with us. But I want to stress, though, and that's why I pulled this, because it's very important, is I want people to understand this is not about getting an increase for members of council. We all ran knowing what the compensation rate was going to be, but we didn't run saying that we would be taking a pay cut in this election. So if that is in order, I would ask that report to come to us at the January 28th meeting so that we can consider it. Members of the public can also see it in our package when it's released, and then we can deal with it then.
Okay. So just for administrative sake, so you're amending the motion then to refer to staff for another report outlining.
Well, I think that irregardless, this motion here is setting the salary to be the full 3/3, because before it was 2/3 on the salary side and 1/3 as the non-accountable allowance. So because the federal government has repealed that, we're now this allows Director Cousins to proceed that way. I'm not going to prejudge what the decision we may make on January the 28th. So my suggestion is that we pass this resolution and that we further ask for a report from Director Cousins to come, and we can deal with it separately. The other thing, too, I just wanted to no, I'm just going to leave it at that.
Okay. Councillor Williams, you're good with that addition to the motion?
Yes, I agree with that.
Okay, very good. Any questions or comments? Councillor Thompson.
Yeah, and I think it's important that we, and I spoke to the mayor briefly about this. I think it's important that we get a report from the treasurer. And again, stressing, I don't think anybody here is, we all ran knowing what our salary was. I don't think anybody's expecting us to get a raise other than the regular that we get through senior management, but this be probably just a revenue neutral situation that one would offset the other, and it just makes it more equal in a lot of ways. So I'm going to support the bring in another report for us.
Other questions or comments? All in favor or carried? Okay, 8B4. 8B4, property tax credit for low-income seniors and disabled persons. Manager of Revenue and Taxation's report number MRT-2019-01. Resolution reads that a bylaw to provide low-income seniors with a $400 property tax credit program for the term of council 2019 to 2022. Taxation years be prepared for council's consideration, and that a bylaw to provide disabled persons with a $400 property tax credit program for the term of council 2019 to 2022 be prepared for council's consideration. I have Councillor Sanderson prepared to move that, and seconded by Councillor Culhane. Councillor Sanderson.
Yeah, excuse me. The reason I asked that it be pulled is that the recommendation before us is to have the credit remain at $400 for the term of council. So, as I look at it, rather than the $400 for the term, I think we should be moving it up incrementally to provide greater assistance to those that most require it. So, if we were to leave it at $400 for the term, when you look at $400 in 2022, that's really the equivalent of receiving $362 today when you discount the money back. So I would like, perhaps through an amendment to the resolution, to see it $400 for 2019, step up to $425 for 2020, $450 for 2021, and then bump to $500 in 2022. And the reason for the bump to $500 is that, again, expressed in today's dollars, that's the equivalent of receiving $452 today. So it's a fairly modest increase, but for me, it's more preferable than leaving it flat at $400. Thank you.
Okay, so you're looking at amending that. So I have Councillor Culhane as the seconder. Do you want to do it as a friendly amendment? Okay. Councillor Culhane, did you have your hand up to speak? Second. Okay, thank you. Mayor Panchuk.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. You know, I'm really happy with this resolution. I'm going to suggest that we perhaps deal with it a little bit differently if the mover and the second are open to it, but I applaud the effort. If I recall correctly, last term it was your motion, and it was the first motion that I seconded, first motion I was involved with. We doubled the low-income seniors tax credit from the $200 that was then to $400. And the reason why we did that was because we understood that trying to keep seniors in their homes was the best possible thing we could do. And it had not been adjusted for a very, very long time. And then so we went through an orderly process to increase that. And if I recall correctly, again, because this is 4 years ago, We passed a motion at a city council meeting deciding that's what we wanted to do, and then we approved it during our budget discussions as a mechanism to go. Director Cousins was able to provide us with an economic analysis of what the cost would be for us on the budget, and we dealt with it, and we were fortunate to have the support of council, and it went through. I would like us to consider this term doubling it once again, because it is in our best interest. It saves us money when we can keep people in their homes. We see the housing issues that we currently have in Belleville, and if you can imagine that we have seniors who are not able to stay in their homes, the question becomes, where will they go? We have nowhere for them to go if they cannot stay in their homes. So it's an important issue, and I applaud the intention. I support it. I'm thinking that maybe we should take a look at what the financial impact is, and look at again considering to double it. It is expensive. I understand and I agree, especially now that we are providing people with disability credits as well to do it. But again, I think that when we look at the overall costs of not doing it, we'll find that it is more expensive. So, again, I hope people understand. I would be happy with the 5. I think that the 8 is there. I understand that $800 when someone is paying a $3,000 or $4,000 tax bill may not be the difference, but it certainly helps a great deal. And so that's what I would suggest. If the mover and the seconder would be amenable, I would like to refer the increase to the operating budget discussions. That would be, I believe, the appropriate place. But if not, then we can certainly vote on this.
No, that's...
hold on one second, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now we've got a amending motion on the floor to amend, and sorry, main motion because it's friendly. So Councillor Sanderson, you wanted to speak?
So yes, I certainly follow Mayor Panchuk's guidance on this, and would agree to refer it to the appropriate budget process, if that's the correct terminology.
Okay, so I can, so do you want to withdraw your motion and then just refer the matter to the operating budget?
Yeah.
And do you want to provide any direction to staff on that?
Provide direction to cost the proposal and give us the financial impact if we were to move it from $400 through the next 4 years to $800.
Okay, so it's been withdrawn, Councillor Culhane, so...
Just to be clear, we're speaking about referring the mayor's motion to double to budget discussions?
Well, as it stands right now, the mayor's made the suggestion, Councillor Sanderson has made the motion, I need a seconder for that. Councillor Kelly, very good. Okay, so now we've got that motion on the floor. Does anybody like to speak to it? To table and
no discussion, no.
Okay, so we're going to refer it to staff then. Councillor Kelly. Okay, so it's tabling motion, no discussion. All in favor? Motion is carried.
Perfect.
So we're at 8B5, Councillor Sanderson's declared a conflict. So I'll deal with that motion there.
So, what I didn't declare...
Sorry, an interest? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Very good. All right, so 8B5, acceptance of underground and water services, Settlers Ridge subdivision, Phase 4. Owner, Settlers Ridge Developments Incorporated. Development Technologies, report number APS-2019-01. Resolution reads that a bylaw to approve and authorize the acceptance of certain underground and water city services in Phase 4 of the Settlers Ridge subdivision be prepared for Council's consideration. Moved by Councillor Kelly and seconded by Mayor Panchuk. Any discussion? All in favor? Motion's carried. 8B6, acceptance of above-ground services, Bell Boulevard, Bell Creek Estate Subdivision, Phase 2, owner Stan Clemensic Builder Limited, and Mayor Panchuk has declared a conflict. Development Technologies, report number APS-2019-02. Resolution reads that a bylaw to approve and authorize the acceptance of certain above-ground city services in Phase 2 of Bell Creek Estate Subdivision be prepared for Council's consideration. Moved by Councillor McCaw, seconded by Councillor Kelly. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. Just giving the clerk a second here to, he's doing double duty. I want to make sure I don't get too far ahead of him. Uh, 8B7, Mayor Panchuk's declared a conflict. Execution of subdivision agreement, final approval of plan of subdivision, Bell Creek subdivision, Phase 3, part of Lot 10, Concession 1, part of Parts 1, 2, and 3, Plan 21R-15386, and part of Lot 15, Registered Plan 217, and part of Lots 1 and 2, Registered Plan 1114, and Lots 33 through 35, 41 through 47, and 61 through 70, Registered Plan 1312, formerly Township of Thurlow, now in the City of Belleville, owner Stan Clemensic Builder Limited. Manager of Approvals, report number APS-2019-05. The resolution reads that a bylaw to authorize or approve and authorize the execution of a subdivision agreement between Stan Clemensic Builder Limited and the Corporation of the City of Belleville for Phase 3 of the Bell Creek subdivision be prepared for Council's consideration, but that the respective agreement and related documentation not be signed until such time as the Manager of Approvals advises that the owner has satisfied all city requirements, and that the Bell Creek subdivision, Phase 3 Plan Subdivision, file number ER-102/12T-900502/12T-90501 for the lands identified as part of Lot 10, Concession 1, formerly Township of Thurlow, now in the City of Belleville, County of Hastings, be granted final approval, and that the Manager of Approvals be authorized to stamp and sign the final plans, provided that the owner has satisfied all city requirements and the surveyor's subdivision plans are satisfactory to approval staff. Councillor McCaw, Councillor Sanderson. Any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, 8B15, Mayor Panchuk is still out on a conflict on this matter as well. Municipal bylaw enforcement officers request from Quinte Mall that resolution reads that a bylaw to appoint municipal bylaw enforcement officers for Quinte Mall be prepared for Council's consideration. Moved by Councillor Williams, seconded by Councillor Culhane. Any questions? All in favor? Motion is carried. Let's wait till the mayor comes back. So 8C, council information matters. We have one item, 8C1, building section month-end report, and it's a report period of December 2018. I need a motion to receive. Councillor Kelly, Mayor Panchuk, any questions or comments? All in favor? Motion's carried. I need a motion to rise and report. Councillor Culhane, Councillor Williams, all in favor? Motion is carried.
Thank you very much, colleagues, and thank you, Councillor Carr. So number 9 is bylaws, and following the first and second reading of bylaws, members may debate any bylaw under consideration. So we do that at second reading of those bylaws. So I'm going to ask first for first reading of bylaws, bylaw number 2019-2, bylaws 2019-3, -04, -05, -06, -07, -08, -09, -10, -11, -12, -13, -14, -15, -16, -17, -18, -19, and -20. And just one moment, please. So if I can just go back, 2006 was tabled to the operating budget. That was the 2005 and 2006 were tabled. I have a conflict on 2010 and 2019, so we're going to deal with those separately. Councillor Carl asked to do the first, second, and third readings of them. So the remainder. We could do first reading on the remainder, and then take a pause and do second and third on the items that I have a conflict. Correct? First, second, and third. So we're going to be dealing with all of them except for 05, 06, 10, and 19. The motion to first reading moved by Councillor Kelly, seconded by Councillor Culhane. All in favor? It's carried. Councillor Carr, can I ask you to deal with number 10 and number 19 for all three readings of those two bylaws, please?
I can do that. So first reading of bylaws, 2019-10 and 2019-19. Second reading of the bylaws, 2019-10, 2000-19. Any questions or comments on either one? And finally, third reading of bylaw number 2019-10 and 2019-19. Sorry, yes. So can I get a mover for all three of those? Councillor Sanderson, Councillor Williams. Just do it all in three. All in favor? Motion is carried.
Sorry? What's 08? Yeah. Sorry, we're just getting the hang of things. Can we also ask you to deal with 2019-08? That's also one that I had a conflict on.
Okay. So first reading of bylaw 2019-08. Can I get a mover for that? Councillor Culhane, seconder Councillor Sanderson. All in favor? Motion is carried. Again, second reading of bylaw 2019-08. Can I get a mover? Councillor Kelly, Councillor McCaw. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor. Motion is carried. And finally, third reading of bylaw 2019-08, moved by Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Sanderson. All in favor. Motion is carried.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. So second reading of the other bylaws, so 2019-02, -03, -04, -07, -09, -11, -12, -13, -14, -15, -16, -17, -18, and -20. So we are on second reading of them. I need a motion. There is we need a slight amendment to 2019-02. Subsequent to the meeting we had on Wednesday appointing councillors and public members to committees, Mr. Jack Alexander made it known to the clerk, and I'll ask him to confirm that he wished to be withdrawn from the Committee of Adjustment appointment. So we will leave that space vacant. In the future, we will have a resolution coming to fill the vacant positions on those boards, including that one there. So, Clerk, can I just have you just confirm that you had received communication from Mr. Alexander wishing to be removed from consideration for that committee?
Through the Chair to Council, I received on Friday confirmation from Mr. Alexander that he wished to have his name removed from consideration.
Right. So the motion now to accept the second reading would have that amendment. So moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Sandison. Any debate or discussion on those bylaws? Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor Panchuk. Bylaw 2019-09, it has to do with the approve and authorizing and execution of a sanitary service agreement between the Corporation of the City of Belleville and the Pentecostals of Quinte. And essentially, it's basically an estimated or just at this point a $10,000 wastewater connections charge. I know that Development Services has been looking at a connection charge for both water and wastewater, and I know that discussion has been occurring for some time. Just along the lines of this particular bylaw, and I see the $10,000 is just a placeholder until that connection charge fees has finally been finalized across the city. Through you to Mr. Ford, I was wondering if you could just advise me when we might have some definitive pricing on those connection charges. I know that we had a resident who was connected to our water service on Maitland Drive recently, and there's a placeholder charge there, but nothing definitive at this point. Thank you.
Mr. Ford, are you able to provide some information?
Certainly, Your Worship. We are actively working with our consultant to come up with the numbers and bring them before council, and we're trying to coordinate that with our current budget, with the city's current budgeting process. So that's our timeline right now.
Okay. Okay. Any other discussion, debate? All in favor? It's carried. Third reading of bylaws, bylaw number 2019-02, -03, -04, -07, -09, -11, -12, -13, -14, -15, 16, -17, -18, and -20. Moved by Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Kelly. All in favor? It's carried. Next item is new business, and colleagues, before I ask for yours, I do have one item which comes from our in-camera meeting today, immediately before, and we have to have 3 readings of it. First reading, that bylaw number 2019-22, being a bylaw to approve and authorize the execution of a commercial lease between the Corporation of the City of Belleville and 1974750 Ontario Inc., doing business as Belleville Physiotherapy and Sports Injury Clinic, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 14th day of January 2019. Moved by Councillor Culhane, seconded by Councillor Millette. Can I just ask, this is new to me a little bit, so we're doing all 3 at this time, or do we have to do 3 separate readings? Right, so we're doing all 3 at once, which means that there can be an opportunity now for debate or discussion. Anyone wish to speak on this motion? Seeing none, all in favor? It's carried. New business. Anyone else? Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Your Worship. When I was canvassing, excuse me, going door to door in the area, let me think now, north of College Street, behind the Quinte Restaurant Plaza area, that development, the residents were telling me about their issues at night with the tractor trailers constantly coming down Canafton Road and turning left to go along College. And they do something with their engines instead of using their air brakes, and it causes some kind of explosive rush of air. I'm sure Director Reid could give a better explanation. It's very loud, it's disruptive, it breaks their sleep, and they were telling me that in Toronto and other municipalities there is a no Jake brake bylaw. So my question today, through you, to Director Reid, Could you tell us about Jake Breaks, and could you tell us whether that's a feasible request? Please.
Thank you. Manager Reid, could you answer that, please?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Colleen. Yes, it's Jake Break. There are a lot of municipalities that do have Jake Break bylaws within, quite often they're semi-urban areas, smaller towns and so forth. Quite often transports use those to help decrease the amount of breakage that they have to use, and the engine slows the vehicle down to help, which then causes a loud noise to erupt. I think this would be a good opportunity to take this forward to the new Traffic/Active Transportation Committee to amend or look at options available for our municipality. In reviewing the traffic bylaw, currently we don't have a schedule for these type of zones within the city, so it would be a good opportunity to take it to that committee.
Thank you. I'm sure the residents would appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Any other one else for new business this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to motions. We don't have any motions from a previous meeting. Number 12, notice of motions. Anyone with notice of motions? Then number 13, which is announcements. I'll ask you for any announcements. Any councillors? Councillor Thompson.
I got two, thank you very much. First of all, I know a number of us attended the Sexual Assault Centre grand opening. Councillor McCaw, Councillor Millette was there, Councillor Colleen was there, Councillor Sanderson, Councillor Williams, so a number of us was there. It's great to see them expand into the new facility, and I want to congratulate them on behalf of the members that attended. Also, I know Honorary Chair Councillor Kelly is with the Red Nose. I just want to let you know that Red Nose had a very successful year this year. New Year's, I drove New Year's plus 5 other nights. New Year's, we finally shut it down at 3:30. We all got home about 10 to 5. A record number of people turned out. We had almost 100 volunteers that night. So I want to thank Councillor Kelly for being the honorary chair, and maybe he's got some input with the Red Nose, but very successful year. Great to be part of it.
Thank you. Councillor Carr.
Thank you, Mayor Panchuk. Two items. I had the pleasure of representing yourself and members of council at the grand opening of Evolve Wellness Studio at 47 Pinnacle Street South yesterday. Jessica and John Purchase are young entrepreneurs and who remodeled the space there, and it's quite nice, so I wish them congratulations and all the best. I'd also like to thank Kathy Stevenson, Bobby Joe Brown, Patty Sine, Amy Swallow, Catherine Brown, and her grandson Bishop. Kathy Stevenson's a resident of Point Anne, took it upon herself to organize with her neighbors a cleanup of the Point Anne area, and drove by yesterday. Because I was at a grand opening, I wasn't exactly dressed to be down in the ditches, but let me tell you, I went down there and visited with them, and they were in the ditches all right, and General Manager Reid tells me it was a pickup truck load of garbage that they have retrieved from the ditches. So I just wanted to thank them for their doing their civic duty on their own accord and trying to beautify their neighborhood within the city of Belleville. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Culhane.
Thank you, Your Worship. It's early, but I would like people to note and mark on their calendars that the Three Oaks have applied for a parade permit to note International Women's Day March on March the 8th, 2019, which is assembling at Bridge Street United Church. So they would welcome any and all support. Thank you.
Thank you. Other announcements? Councillor Williams.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I was pleased to attend on your behalf and the city's behalf the grand opening of Wild Wing in Belleville, and new entrepreneurs Jason and Jackie Blyson. They own the KOA in Brighton, and they've decided to come into Belleville. The story was they visited Wild Wings a few times, found it was open, and decided to buy it and come to our friendly city. So it's fantastic, and I was pleased to attend the CFP Trenton levy on New Year's Day with Honorary Colonel John Smiley and Colonel Golden. To extend greetings from the city, which is fantastic. So, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Sanderson.
Thank you, Your Worship. On Saturday, I attended the 2019 Belleville Shrine Club President's Night on behalf of the Mayor and our balance of council here. And We brought greetings to newly elected President Ken Campbell, Noble Ken Campbell, and it was a wonderful evening, and it was celebrated by members and their families from all across Canada. So it was quite an event, and they're a great club, great organization, and we wish them all the best for 2019 and beyond.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly.
A couple things. Last week we were at the Rotary Club luncheon. I know quite a few of us were there. Mayor Panchuk was the guest speaker, and Rotary of Belleville, one of the active service clubs in town, and they do so much. So it was nice to break bread with our friends at the Rotary Club. Also, too, Councillor Thompson and I, one night were out together with Operation Red Nose, and he was the navigator, I was the driver, and it was past 10 o'clock, so I had to keep nudging him to keep him awake. But we had a great night, and it was an honor to be the honorary chair this year with Orlena Kane from Quinte Broadcasting, and over the course of the 5 or 6 weeks, Operation Red Nose, thousands got home safely, and another very positive year. And I had a chance to represent Mayor Panchuk at the New Year's levee in Prince Edward County. We wish our friends to the south all the best.
Excellent, thank you. Good. Manager DeCola has an announcement. Anyone else?
I would just like to congratulate all of the staff of the Environmental Services Department. They've just passed a milestone on December 24th, 2018. That is effectively 15 years without a lost time accident or WSIB claim. Literally, the staff has turned over 108% of all the staff bodies in that 15 years. So it's not the same people doing that. It's just a culture of safety. Thank you.
Excellent news. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to proclaim the month of January 2019 as Crime Stoppers Month, and ask everyone to assist me in spreading the word and thanking that organization for keeping our community safe. I'd also like to proclaim the upcoming week of March 4th to 10th as Violence Awareness and Random Acts of Kindness Week in the city of Belleville. I'll also ask you to assist me in spreading the word for this important cause. We've had a number of events since our last meeting, but perhaps the one that was most important and also so well received was the New Year's levee held on January 5th, 2019. It was by all accounts a huge success. We had the pleasure of meeting upwards of 600 residents of Belleville at this event. My colleagues on council and I would like to thank everyone who attended for their being there, but also their continued support. I'd like to thank the staff who went above and beyond, reacting to a significantly larger crowd than we expected, helping to organize that. We'd like to thank the performers, including the St. Michael's Children's Choir and the jazz piece, and also want to thank Director Fleur and all the staff of the Quinte Sports and Wellness Center for the amazing job they did to present not just our City Council levy, but the entire sports center, which was extremely busy that weekend going forward. So wanted to do that. I also had the pleasure of speaking with 2 service clubs. I spoke with the Rotary Club on January the 7th and the Kiwanis Club on January the 9th. I think Councillor Millette is getting tired of hearing the same speech, but nonetheless, I tried to make some changes. Both talks were successful, and I want to thank both Rotary and the Kiwanis clubs for being such gracious hosts and all the work that they and other service clubs do in the city on behalf of myself and all of our City Council. I also want to say that how pleased I was with the special council meeting held on January 9th to populate our boards and committees. I feel the committees are well representing the city of Belleville, and as a council, we look forward to getting started with our committees' commitments and work going forward. Last week, on January the 10th, I was able to attend with Karen Post and Quinte Economic Development staff and board members to go to Gatineau, Quebec, which is the production area of Hexo Canada. Hexo Canada is leasing space in the former Sears warehouse for a processing facility here in Belleville, and I just wanted to say how impressed I was by that facility. It's very high tech, and we're excited to welcome them to Belleville, and you will have some more information regarding an invitation for an event with them hopefully later this month. I also had the pleasure of attending my first Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and Eastern Ontario Mayor's Caucus meetings on Friday, January the 11th. It was a great meeting of respected groups. We had representatives from the federal government there, from the provincial government, as well as mayors and wardens from across Eastern Ontario. And I look forward to working with them going forward. I also attended the rebranding meeting of Iridian Corporation this past Friday, and I'm happy to announce that I can't announce the new name today. It will be publicly released on Thursday. But I did want to talk about the fact that this is very good news for the city of Belleville and our ownership within Viridian Corporation. The decision to merge Viridian Connections and Whitby Hydroelectric Corporation under a new organization is first and foremost a concerted effort to enhance the comfort of our customers. It provides us the opportunity to improve the reliability of our services, as well as reduce the rising cost of electricity. And I'm looking forward to hearing everybody see the new branding, as well as the name on Thursday of this week. I'd also like to congratulate Shoppers Home Healthcare for their grand opening of their new location at the just off of Bell Boulevard. Those of you who know some personal information about my family will know that my wife worked there for many years until I got into this position, and where she is no longer working there. But that is a great company helping our seniors age well as they go forward. I'd also like to thank Councillors McCaw and Councillor Thompson and Councillor Culhane for attending with me Lola Reed Allen's photography show on Saturday at the Belleville Public Library. And again, we had another full house for that event, and it was great to see the library being used for that. The last thing I just want to do is I want to give a special thank you to members of council who have been able to attend events for me since the last meeting and represent the city. I appreciate your assistance in making sure that we are giving the attention and the time to residents, businesses alike that are important to us. With that, I will ask for a confirmatory bylaw, that bylaw number 2019-21, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council at its meetings held on January 14th, 2019, be read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 14th day of January 2019. Moved by Councillor Millette, seconded by Councillor Culhane. All in favour? It's carried. A motion to adjourn, moved by Councillor Carr, seconded by Councillor Williams. All in favour? Thank you.